Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your co-host M2 Dave, and I'm here with my co-hosts Rio and MK Tom Brady. Yes, Rio and MK Tom Brady, we're back, boys. Say hi, man.
What's up, guys? Back again.
Yes, we are back, and this is episode 35. I did reach out to Crimson Shadow, but he didn't contact me in time. So for now, we're going to do an episode with just us three, but in the near future, hopefully Crimson can come back on and then we can have like the old group together, like old times.
Yes, back for better or worse. But yes, we're back. So, Rio, I'm sure you already were. Tom and I did a podcast on, an episode on Hollow's channel. The question was, how do we make or how does MK become great again? How does MK become successful again? Um, Let me ask you, because Tom and I were ranting for about 2 hours on the podcast. What do you think?
Okay, well, what about? I think before to answer that, we should answer. Do you guys think MK12? What about MK12? You guys think this game is a failure or a success?
It's a failure. It's a failure
Wait,
because
wait, wait.
it.
Before we get into it, okay, so you think it's a failure. What about you, Dave?
Easy success, easy.
Okay, and then my response is I think it's both a failure and a success. Because when I look
I'll
at
agree with that.
games, sorry, what happened?
I said I agree with that. Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah, because when I look at games, I know people like to bring up, you know, monetizing, how much a game sells, this and that. But to me, as someone that just wants to play a game, I don't care about any of that. So if a game sells like 50 million copies, but I don't enjoy the gameplay and I think it's not good, to me, that game is a failure. But if I play a game that only sells like 100 copies, but I think the gameplay is very good, and I would consider it a success for me for what I want. But for me, I have different definition of what I would consider successful or a failure, depending if I like the game or not. What about you, Dave?
Well, just like I said on Mike's podcast, I think it depends how you quantify success or failure, any of those nouns. To me personally, um, if let's talk about sales, right? I think sales do matter. Not because I think, oh my God, the game sold the most. That's why this game is the best ever, right? No, but if let's say you enjoy Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8 or Mortal Kombat 12 or Guilty Gear Strive, you want those games to succeed in terms of sales because you probably want those games to be supported for a while, right? Which again, it doesn't necessarily mean they will be, but I think them selling a lot will probably means that they will be supported long term. Ask Fatal Fury players, and they may tell you a different answer because their games are not selling very well, and they might have a short lifespan as a result. So I'll kind of leave it at there. I'll let Tom respond, but I think again, just one aspect of it. If you're gonna go into sales, I think speaking of which, by the way, MK12 has sold very well. We're sitting at maybe like 6.2. Those were the recent numbers. Probably 6.5 by now. The game, by the way, which is the most out of any modern fighting game. So in that sense, MK12 is a success because it has outsold its competitors.
Well, if you want to go by sales, I'll just say this very quickly because I want to harp on it. MK12 will not sell more than MKX. It will not sell more than MK11. Now, just if I want to look in the terms of business, I don't care if I outsell my competitors. Let's just say I make $100 million one year, right? Or let's just say we'll just keep it broad, $1 million. Let's say I have $1 million in sales. We'll just keep it very simple. And let's say my next product has only 500,000, but I outsold my competitor. Am I going to say, well, at least I outsold the other guy? I'm going to say, no, I lost $500,000 from one product to another. What did I do wrong? And that's the difference. NRS, the reason why I think the game is a failure is because it doesn't work. From the very first day the game came out, I made a very controversial video in which I said this game will be done, funding will be pulled after 1 year, which it was. Now, was I hating? No. The problem was it was a game based on a assist mechanic, but there are several things that assist games have that allow the game to be, as Rio would say, fun. Whether it's broken or not broken, sells or not, fun is subjective, right? And I would say you know, fun. A lot of people have talked about how restrictive and slow the game felt, as far as like how restrictive it is, how the assist felt like kind of janky for a long time. This is because for assist games to be fluid, pretty much all of them have several defensive mechanics that allow characters to move around freely and not be locked down for eternity, while an assist plus character can continue to be involved. That is super jump, push block, air block, and there are like an air dashing. These mechanics allow these assist games to not put restrictions on the assist. If all these, as well as a few other mechanics not included in MK1, if all these assist games were missing these mechanics and the assists were not restricted like on a timer, you would be locked down forever and you'd never get to move. Well, it's the same with MK1. MK1, by not including these mechanics, the assist was is now automatically forced to be restricted. Forced. Um, and the only hope they had, because obviously they weren't going to put these mechanics in, would be to say make the assist more of a background thing and focus on the characters. Allow every single character to play the game like a 1v1 game. And then the assist becomes the +1. And this will get away from the system of, well, every cycle of the game you're going to have 3 assists that are picked 90% of the time and 1 or 2 sporadically, and that's never changed from the beginning to the end. And let me just give a quick example, and I'm only using Sub-Zero on this because he's the character that I know the most about. Um, a lot of characters still need the assist to do X, Y, or Z. Frost, despite, and let me say, can you imagine, the assist, if they had like, if the assists were not restrictive and Frost could do her Frost Orb every 5 seconds, you would never get to move. There'd be an orb on the screen for eternity. But like, if you had low cooldowns or no cooldowns and characters could super jump away and dash and whatever, block in the air, push block, whatever, you could have these assists going off like crazy and characters would be able to maneuver around the screen around like minefields of assists doing stuff. But let's take Sub-Zero. Instead of like needing the assist to do everything, the Frost Wall is a really cool, when they gave her that, that's such a, no pun intended, cool move, right? You get to put a corner up anywhere on the screen. Why does nobody use it? Because characters can't use it. Characters need assists that are available, so low cooldowns, that either give you combo extensions, make plus moves, make negative moves safe, make unsafe moves safer plus, give you launchers that don't launch, things like that. And because they rely on that kind of stuff, Frost doesn't do any of that. So it doesn't really matter. But if you made characters more complete so they didn't rely on those things, then a character like Sub-Zero could say, well, hey, how dominant would it be if I could put a wall up anywhere on the screen? And I don't need or any other character that has like a strong corner game, and I don't need the assist to do all these other things. I do that for myself. Now being able to call a corner up anywhere is just devastating. But because the game is not designed properly for like an assist game, it was doomed to fail. And overall, having its funding pulled after a year, I think it did.
Well, let me just say this, and I'll let Rio jump in. Um, that's like saying I would have. By the way, everything Tom just said, I would agree. The first year of the game, but the game has changed a lot since then, and it's kind of like saying, guys, look at Filipino champ using Jean and using Phoenix and using all the other characters who build a lot of meter. She's so incomplete. Yes, that's the design. She has to be used with the character with a little bit of meter for obvious reasons. If you understand how Marvel works, right? That's like
Could
saying,
you tell me the
oh,
cooldowns
look
on
at
the assists in
hold
Marvel?
on, let me finish. Look at what's another example? Oh, look at Chris G with Morgan using Dr. Doom and controlling the vertical space, with Morgan. Yes, that's the way the game works. Because you know, because assists are part of the game, right? And yes, there was a time when the characters were very weak. Like Rain was very weak. He was still top tier because Cyrex was too strong. Cyrex being the assist, but they buffed Rain a lot, and now people are saying that he's like top 10 easily, right? So assist games, if you go by the all super turbo, even third strike logic, that this game is a one-on-one, and that's kind of where we draw the line. That's not this game. And if you don't like that, this game is not for you, right?
It's a
This
restrictive
game,
assist game. The assists have long cooldowns. You can't use 90% of them because of their restrictions of cooldowns. And the reason why those restrictions exist is because they don't give you core defensive mechanics included with every other tag game that allows these assist games to behave that way. That was the death of this game. And by not deviating one way or the other, they ended it. And you're right, the game has changed. It's changed because they're not making anything for it anymore.
Ria, I'll let you jump
Well,
in before I easily dismantle this argument more, but you can go ahead.
well, regarding what you guys were saying earlier about the sales, before I touch into like the game specifics, yes, the sales does have pros and cons to it, right? Like for personally, I don't care if a game is gonna like I don't care that there's 50 million people playing Fortnite, right? That doesn't make me want to play the game. What makes me want to play the game is if the game is good and fun and it's enjoyable for what I like. So the issue here is since I'm a player who's just looking to play the game, the whole like sales argument, this and that to me is pointless. But then I understand the pros and cons that come with it because if you do enjoy a game, right? Let's say you like MK9 a lot and MK9 ends up selling 20 million. Well, guess what? The pros in that regard would be now you probably get more support. Now you probably get more patches, more updates, more character, more DLC stuff in the future that promotes the game. But for me to care about something like that, first you have to enjoy the base of the game. If you don't like the base of the game, then the whole sales around it to me are irrelevant. But I do understand why some people enjoy it. Now back to the whole assist thing. I think what Tom is saying about the assist is not so much that they're limited, but in the way how the game is designed, there's not a lot of round. It almost feels like, and I when I first played MK12 in the beginning, I made a comment. It was like the second we did the game. What I told Detroit Biggs, and then when I was playing them, we were playing MK12 on PC. I was like, this game to me feels like MKX with better neutral. That's what the game feels like. Now, it's not a shot at the game for being like MKX. I like that they incorporated better neutral. That way, you know, when you do get in, you get an opening. You have to actually work a better neutral instead of just running in or doing an armor launcher from half screen. The problem is, to touch on a little bit what Tom said, the first characters I was playing in the beginning was Havoc and Darius. And I was playing against Detroit. He was playing Shang and Kung Lao. I had to deal with his assist like every 5 seconds he had it. He was always plus on block. Every time we end the combo, we do low hat jump and I have to block hard to blockable. I got to use my Darius assist, I'd say like 1/3 of the amount of time Detroit did. I get to, it felt like I was calling him out once every 20 seconds. I barely got to do anything with him. It was at that moment I realized assist in this game, the way that the game is created, it does not work like other games. Because in other games, like Tom mentioned, you have a lot more fundamental tools that you can in general. Like, for example, there's push blocking, there's super jumping, there's advanced guarding, there's all these stuff in the game that allow a lot more assists to be more creative and have more impact into the game where a lot of them can do different things. But in MK12, seems like a lot of the assists in this game are made to be either they're going to give you a combo, either they're going to give you pressure, or they're going to do a mix up. And whoever has the assist that can do more of that, like for example, way back 2 years ago with Kung Lao, the person using Kung Lao is going to be able to either pressure you, do more mix ups, and basically use the assist way more than the person using Darius, who will be able to use the assist 1/3 of the time, and it doesn't even do much of anything when you compare it to Kung Lao. That's one of the issues with MK12 in the beginning. Now, Dave, to go on your point, you said they kind of did fix this, right? Now they made a lot more of the assists balanced in the way that it's not just people playing the same, 5 meta assists, and then a lot of them are just whatever, unless you have a specific character.
Well, the problem with Darius is not that he doesn't come out very often. He does, and he's actually used. The problem is that he doesn't do enough overall, which now goes back to the typical balance issue that any fighting game has. Of course, if you're Kung Lao, not only can low hat be used, uh, in zoning wars, not only can it be used in footsies, not only can it be used in mix-ups because it's a low. Darius assists, which you have buffed nothing. They've received nothing but buffs, including more health. I mean, you name it, they've done it, right? But it can only be used for one thing, and that's for knockdown. Okay, but Lao already does that. At least with most characters, right? So why would you use Lao over Darius? And that's again a
And it's
more
more
reasonable
available. A lot
problem
more available.
because no, Darius is available. Cooldown is not the issue. You guys are judging it from a meta because you stopped playing a long time ago. By the way, it doesn't mean you shouldn't comment or you're wrong. I'm just telling you what's actually happening. I mean, I watched this weekend's versus fighting, and I saw tons of variety because I still play the game and I watch it, and I have the data that's up to date. And I'm not necessarily saying you guys don't, but I'm telling you what's actually happening. Darius is not weak because, oh my God, he comes back every 35 seconds. That's not the issue. The issue is that they are just better assists. And that's true of any fighting game in terms of the characters themselves as well as the assists.
I'm
Get what you're
confused.
saying. Wait 1 second, Tom. Are you sure they didn't buff Darius? 'Cause I remember when I was using him, he would come back. It took a long time for him to come back. It was like 20 seconds for him to do a spin kick, and then you'd have to
Yeah, the
wait a long
spin kick.
time.
Yeah,
They
the
just, yeah,
spin
they
kick.
buffed it. They buffed that.
Okay, so they
Yeah,
did buff him because I remember. So now you can do him a lot more often. Just when you compare it to Kunal's assist, it's like, well, this character gives you projectile, hard to blockables, better footsies. You can close in the round. You can do all this stuff. But Darius, you just get either a combo extension, which I mean, you get anyway with low hat, hard to blockable into a combo mix up, or you get I guess it's overhead mix up. I think honestly the best way to make Darius better from back then, what they could have done was just give his good moves from this session instead of these
That's what
weird
I
moves
said.
he has
That's
right here.
exactly what I
Where's
said.
his low nut punch? Where's his overhead nut punch? Where's his gauntlet 3? Give him his good attacks
Exactly
from
what I said.
Deception. He would be a very good assist.
Yeah, I was like, did the person who made Darius not even play Deception? Like, what were they thinking? And Dave, by the way, I get you said they improved the game so much, but I mean, again, when when you're just a month into your new expansion and Warner Brothers says no one is getting into this, I'm going to pull the plug. It does speak that people aren't enjoying the game. I mean, they aren't. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what that means because I mean MK11, a game we trashed on podcast. By the way, I don't get it.
but
Wait 1 second, Dave. Your mic's a little messed up. It's hard to hear you, and it sounds like you're far.
Let me just say that MK11 has sold a lot. It continues to sell, and people still play the game. That's
Dave, wait, Dave, hold on. Your mic is so bad that we can barely understand what you sounds like you're underwater.
your mic is
Can you
breaking.
try replugging your mic in? See if it fixes it.
But MK11 also did have some signs. After the first Evo,
sorry. Is it any
MK11's
better now? Is it any
Okay, it's
better now?
perfect. It's perfect. It's fixed.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I had to just replug it. What I was saying is that MK11 sold a lot and continues to sell, and everybody, include all of us, uh, predicted that there was going to be another patch based on like Boone, kind of playing the crowd on Twitter, if you will. Never happened. Even though the game has sold 50 million copies, and everybody thought, they're gonna milk it maybe until 25 million or whatever. They never did, right? So also, what people miss is that MK11 was on the last gen console, including the new one. MK12 is not. So PS4 still has about 40, 45 million up on PS5. Xbox around 20 to 25 million. So I'm sure if you are an executive, if you are a WB, NRS financial advisor, whatever you want to call those people, I'm sure that's part of part of the equation, and people understand that, and I think they should.
Well, I did some research because I really wanted to explain MK11 and nothing I say is fact here. It's all subjective based on how we interpret the data. But I really wanted to see like how did the exact numbers on MK11 and where their sales came from and why it was so successful. So the writing was on the wall in the first year of MK11 for this game and even MK11. So after MK11 had the most successful year one of not just Mortal Kombat, but of any fighting game in history. By not just sales, selling in 1 year more than Street Fighter V's whole lifespan combined. I believe MK11 was 8 million year one, 12 million by the end of year two. Um, so we have it's somewhere between 6 and 8 million year one. Like you don't always get the exacts, but it's in that range. The most successful year one ever, and not only in sales, but also in Evo attendance. It had almost 1,600 people, 1,575. It was the biggest Mortal Kombat tournament to this day in history. Almost had as much as Street Fighter and Tekken. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, as far as participation, it is on par with Street Fighter and Tekken, and its community is supporting it the way it's never supported Mortal Kombat before. and its sales are off the chart. By all metrics, this game was going in the right direction. Most people forget this, but Evo pre-COVID, that January of 2020, they did not include MK11. Now there's been no reason to not include it because of all the things I just mentioned. And this is before COVID happened. So MK11 was bounced from the Evo circuit after the most successful year in the history of Mortal Kombat and financially in the history of fighting games. And this is because people were getting sick of it. Well, what happened? Well, COVID happened. Nobody could leave their house. And NRS started promises with Aftermath if they didn't deliver, with Ultimate if they didn't deliver. COVID really, really did a lot in keeping the sales coming in because we couldn't go anywhere. There were no tournaments because everyone was on lockdown, and NRS is releasing new content at a time when nobody can even leave their house. Um, and of course, after COVID, everything went downhill. The dissatisfaction rate was sky high, and a lot of the lot of the discouragement and dissatisfaction rate was going on in MK11. So why didn't it happen after year one? It would have. It did. Then COVID happens. We can't leave the house. NRS, here's this version of the game. Promise you XYZ, don't deliver. Here's this version of the game. Promise you XYZ, don't deliver. And that was it. Year 3 and 4 of MK11 would have been year 2. And I don't think it would have sold as well. The majority of their sales, they had 12 million after 2 years. I truly believe without COVID and after Evo dropping it from the Evo circuit, that would have hurt. I don't think they sell 12, 13 million after in 2 years. I don't think they go from maybe like 8 million to 12, 13 million in 1 year. And I don't think it hits 15 million. Now, Dave, you could say, well, so what if it sells 11 or 12? It's still successful. Absolutely. But I believe it would have fallen off hard after year 1. The people weren't happy. So even with MK11 sales numbers, like I said, how I interpret the data is subjective. However, I can still make a case that that's exactly what happened. So even with sales with MK11, you can still look for other things that say people weren't happy. And you
I
can
don't know.
look at that in the same
I feel like you're talking about now you're in the camp of making excuses for the game because of COVID, which in the past you used to criticize. Like, okay, where
I'm
do you
just saying I
stand?
think that helped the sales of the game.
Well, the game has always been criticized more or less for its universal mechanics, especially by people like you and me. Yet the game sold the most and had the most at Evo. Guys, here's the secret of fighting games. People have preferences and they play what they like. There's no secret formula. Oh, maybe COVID hurt this game, and then COVID didn't hurt this game,
There is
and
a
players
secret
just like
formula.
this and they're like that. There's no such thing. Okay,
I would
here's
like
the
Rio to
reality.
weigh in on this too, because Rio talked about
Well,
what
let
matters
me.
most.
You said a lot. Let me weigh in, then you can respond. So the reality is that people have preferences. Sometimes we like games, and sometimes we don't. For example, I like Tekken 8. A lot of people hate it. Many people like Third Strike, consider the best Street Fighter game. I think the game is overrated. But there are other games that I like that other people think they're overrated, and that's okay. Now is the best time to be a fighting game player because you have so many options. You can play whatever you want, irrespective of the fact that people may dislike them or like them. You are in charge. You don't like the new games? Go back to Fight Kit and play whatever you like. Play the older games. You don't like the older games? Well, play the new ones. You have Guilty Gear, Tekken, Street Fighter. I mean, you have so many the new Fatal Fury. You have so many options. So pick and choose, and enjoy yourself.
Well, I personally believe you could put Karate Champ at Evo and it would beat MK1. Because pretty much any game, no matter how old they put there, beats the stuffing out of it. And there's a reason for that. It's because, to Rio's point, is the game fun or enjoyable? Now, there is a thing when it comes to what is better. The game is balanced or that a game is fun. Because, and you and I have talked about this, David. I really want Rio's take on this. What makes a fighting game good? Why is MK9 so beloved? We could talk for 2 hours on all the issues it has. Why is it so beloved? Dave, you say rose-colored glasses, but that's not why. It's because there's something for everybody. You see, in order for a game to have something for everyone, it cannot be balanced because then it has a triangle of offense and all the multiple archetypes that are of offense defense and all the archetypes that follows defense, and grappling. The beauty of this triangle is no one archetype in any one of these, no sub archetype within any one of these groups beats everything. So you're going to have something for everyone. No matter what kind of defense you like, that version of that defense is going to be there. No matter what kind of grappler you like. Offense, do you like pressure? Maybe you like mix. Maybe you like being a high flyer. All these forms of offense are there. It isn't just one or the other. Same with defense or whatever. So you have, or it isn't just all offense or all defense. But the problem with this is you're always going to have matchup problems. So you're going to have certain tool sets that work really well here, not so well here. Some terrible here, some really good here. So you're going to have that this is matchup is really bad, this matchup is really good. This is close to even, this is even, slight disadvantage. People want their freedom to be able to play the style that they find fun, but then you have to realize the bad matchups come with that. The only way to circumvent that is to take less archetypes, less playing style, less player skill sets are viable or even in the game. Sure, you can achieve balance that way, but then that isn't very fun if you are one of those players that enjoys certain aspects. And I think that's what Rio's talking about.
Yeah, so
Go
real
Rio.
quick, because we just, yeah, I'm trying to keep up because you guys went through like 3 different subtopics, but to touch on the first one regarding the sales and I don't know if you guys remember, but when I had the game on PC on Steam on MK12 when I was playing, there were actually a lot of people on my friend list playing the game. A lot more than I remember there being for MK11 or MKX or even MK9. Like it seemed like a lot of people were playing MK12 in the beginning, and then after a couple months, most of the people that were playing the game kind of just stopped playing it. Like it was just a few people left on my friend list, whereas before a ton of people were on. Did you guys see that graph somebody made regarding all the NRS games that sold in the beginning when they came out? MK12 was actually doing the best out of all of them. It was outselling MKX, MK11, MK9, all of them by far in like the first 3 months. If you guys didn't see that, I can link it to you 1 second.
Yeah, I saw it.
Here, if they didn't see it, go to General right there, and I'll put it up on the video right now so you guys can just see what I'm looking at.
I mean, as far as like you guys don't have to link stuff. What you say, I believe you. I don't think anybody
Yeah,
you were
but
telling
anyway,
me. I believe you. Well, let me just kind of say this as we're
yeah. So
waiting.
real quick, sorry, I was just trying to adjust the image because it's for some reason it's like so large. But when MK12 came out, it wasn't doing really bad or when it was actually beating all the other MK games. It was after month 3 of the game, almost month 4, is when the game started doing bad. So I don't know what happened after 3 or 4 months. People all of a sudden just stopped buying the game. The growth stopped, and I guess a lot of people stopped playing it. Now, from my experience playing it back then, the online was horrendous on PC. It was so hard to play. I would have to invite someone like Detroit or Cam or whoever or Soup, and we would play a match in King of the Hill. It would desync after the first game. His private one-on-one lobbies would not work. It was like after the first month or two. So the online experience was terrible. So we found a way around it. I think it was Soup that found this. Is you would have to go to King of the Hill, then create a match, then invite someone to play, and then after they join, you guys can play one game, and then later on, when the after the intros play after the first match you play together, the game goes back to desyncing. I don't know what was going on with it, but yeah, that beginning first experience was caused so much harm to the game that I think after a while, people kind of just got fed up and ended up moving on and stopping playing it. And if you look at the graph, it kind of shows that too. 'Cause in the beginning, MK12 was beating all of the MK games by a lot, like in sales and everything. And then after the third month, it just stopped. Like it just started going down. While MKX and MK11 continued to grow after month 4 when they were out.
I think you're right, 100%. I think the first game, that means like the first year of Mortal Kombat 12, aka whatever. I'm sorry, because you guys keep calling it different things. I'm sorry if I call it, but
Well, I'm
anyway,
calling it
once
MK12 because we already have a game called MK1 released like over 30 years ago. So it's kind of weird to call this game MK1. I don't like that. I just call it MK12.
fair enough. I just get confused. I'm sorry, but anyway, uh, the game, its first year, whatever you call it, was a disaster. I don't think anybody's protecting it. Just like Street Fighter 5, its first year was a disaster, and I think most people would agree that toward the end of Street Fighter V's lifespan, the game was good. It's not very good. I know I played it, and I would say the same thing about MK1, whatever /12. The game completely unplayable. Was not fun to play. What from a balance perspective or any other perspective you want to approach. And I think the word of mouth got out. People found out. It's like, dude, what is this? And then Chaos Reign was eventually released, and they requested $50 plus tax, right? And people are like, no, I'm not paying this much money for this. It's just not worth it. And you haven't earned our trust based on the first
Because
year of
people
the
paid
game.
108 for the first year for the combat pack and the early access. People were like, we already dropped 110 on it, and we
Correct.
want
Yeah.
10 of it.
Yeah. It was already. Thank you. It was already expensive as is, and now you want even more. And people are like, no. That doesn't necessarily speak to the quality of the product, even though in this case I think it did to some extent. But it does speak, to the pricing level. And I think the FGC has spoken. We don't want monetization. Why you're still charging us? And I think that played a huge part for its lack of sales for Chaos Reigns, without a question. And and again, it kind of steamrolled, snowballed from there, and I think the rest is history.
Look, first impressions are very important when you're playing something. When I got into the game, I was expecting a lot because going from MK11, this was the first time NRS had more than their typical 2 years to make a new game, right? Every game before that, it was 2 years MKX, 2 years Injustice, 2 years MKX, 2 years Injustice 2, 2 years MK11. But this time, they had more than that time. They didn't make MK12 2 years after MK11. They actually allowed. So I went into it going like, you know what? This game's probably going to be a lot better than all of us think because of all the time that they're putting into it. They're cooking it in the lab for a long time. So when I got it, I was already expecting it to be a ton better than I probably should have. I don't know why I did that, but I went into it thinking like that, which ended up being a mistake because then when I played the game, it didn't feel all too special. And a thing about the game is when you have a first impression and you get into it and your friends get into it, and then you kind of see what the game is full of all these issues, like the online not working properly, characters like Havoc not resembling what they felt like in Deception. They have like all these weird new moves that just feel like they kind of added these projectiles on this character just to do something new. But then it's like, well, why not add these interesting new projectiles on a different character and create a different character from the ground up instead of redesigning what Havoc had? Because Havoc in Deception was a cool character. He already had his theme and everything. They could have just built on that. But not to say that everything new they did to Havoc was bad. Like, for example, I liked how Havoc could stretch his limbs. They would come off, give him extra range. That stuff was cool. But the whole weird Injustice projectiles and then him not having his taunts that restores HP, and that was what I wasn't a fan of. And then you have characters like Shang, who now have Catwoman claws from Injustice. And I know it was funny because Detroit was complaining about that. I'm like, you know what? Why does Shang have Catwoman claws? It's kind of like random in a way. But aside from some people not liking the online, aside from character concepts that they played in the past, like Havoc, Darius, whatever character that does resemble the games they played for, it makes you sit there and think, well, who are these characters for? They're not for people nostalgia that used to play their games back then. So they brought back Havoc, Darius, all these characters that new people have never played before. But it's not for the older papers, for the old players that grew up playing those games because they don't resemble them and they look differently. And so it makes you sit there and wonder, well, what was the point of me playing Deception back then? Some of these characters don't even like Asha. What even is that? Like Asha doesn't even look like how she looks in Deception. She has a completely different moveset. And it almost makes you feel like, wow, I kind of played MK before then for real no reason, because I could have gotten into this game not knowing anything, not playing Deception. And I would think Darius is this guy who does like random axe kicks and Havoc throws these weird projectiles in there and does a tumble roll at you, you know?
Well, I think what's important to note is that we're kind of the old guard, right? We're 30s, 40s, or beyond. There's an evolution of fighting games, an evolution of characters. That's why now Sagat was just released in the last 2-3 weeks or so. He's not a zoning character, so of course all the old school was like, "Bro, why the Tiger shot so bad? What the hell is going on?" Right? Like they're just screaming right top of their lungs, and the new player's like, "What? Yeah, he's just a footsie character. Like he's an offensive footsie character, right? What's wrong with that?" So just
Dave,
like with many other series that
I
I
can't
can.
agree with
Dave,
that,
wait,
man.
hold on.
Sorry.
Dave, I get what you're saying, but I'm not talking about playstyles. I'm talking
Well, you
about
are.
characters just don't really have their moves that they used to back then. I'm not talking about I don't Havoc and Deception was a brain dead 50-50 character, right? I'm not talking about his playstyle. I'm talking about the moves he had that you didn't really use back then. Like his neck snap, he would restore health. You had Serena who would machine gun knives. She doesn't really do that. Now she has like Jade Boomerang. She has a spell that drains meter. The point is, with Sagat that you brought up, at least he has his Tiger Fireball and his Tiger Uppercut, does he not? The
True, but a
problem
lot
is
of
when you look at Serena and Havoc, where's Serena's Skull Basher?
no
Where is
fair.
Havoc's corpse snap where he snaps himself and heals it? Like, this is what I mean. Characters do not like have. I mean, Darius
I
didn't have
mean,
his moves from Deception. I don't mind changing playstyles. Like if you want to make Sagat go from a zoner to now he's an aggressive footseeker, like you said. At least he has the same moves. But Havoc, Darius,
Maria,
Serena, these characters don't even have the moves that they had in Deception. I don't mind them
those
changing their playstyle. Just
games were like 2 or 3 games. Sagat has been like in 50
right,
games.
but dude, you have
That's
to
like
have characters resemble how they used to be. Like for example, when I look at Melina in MK12, I want to throw up. Not because I think she's badly designed or she looks bad, but dude, really, out of all the things they could change about her, I can't throw a Psy full screen. That had to go. That why not just make a different character? And also, we already have a character that does that. That does projectiles that don't go full screen. It's called Ashra. Ashra's always been like that. That can be her theme. But when you start adding, just changing things for characters for the sake of changing stuff, like now Serena can't throw projectiles full screen. Now Reptile's Force Walls don't go full screen. It's like at some point you're gonna have to be like, how about we create characters, have them play a certain way without butchering their moves, so they're they resemble how people used to play them in a bit.
well,
Yeah, and
nobody
I
has
agree.
said that. Let me just say this real quick, Tom, and I'll let you jump in. Like nobody has criticized like Darius's gameplay more than I. Darius in Deception was like a complete 50-50, overhead low character, which by the way he kind of has. Ironically, it's just that those are not the moves that he does. Because I show you the individual, God bless his or her soul, who designed him. Like obviously never played the original character, but the thing is, it's also not a I think a fair equivalency to equate like Serena and Serena and Havoc to Sagat, who's been around.
Okay, let me try to elaborate on Rio's point then. I understand what he's saying. And it
Yeah.
goes back to his point with MK when the game first came out, Kung Lao versus Darius. Here was not just the cooldown, but also what it did. So like if you played previous MK games and you're looking at all the cameos, you see an MK Deception cameo. And you see he's got an overhead and he can delay it, and you're like, oh, this must be like to do like 50-50s when I knock him down or whatever, right? So you think if there's any cameo in the game that should be about vortex and nonstop mix and impossible to block situations, surely it would be Darius. Not only were there cameos that did it better, but they did it with almost no cooldown. So it's like, why is Darius in the game? He's a deception character. You would think he would give you something akin to deception. Instead, no, if you want to vortex somebody, you're going to pick Kung Lao or now Tremor or whatever. Or like, mix them with hard to blockables. What is Darius there for? And that's, I think, like he's an MK deception character. Wouldn't you expect that from a deception character? Instead, no, Kung Lao, Tremor, what? Why not Darius? It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like they didn't think of these things. Like Havoc, yeah, he's got cool moves or whatever. But I mean, in Oshra, like, what are these moves they gave them? Like, Havoc, when you have characters that are so, they didn't put Havoc in because like people weren't hyped when they heard Havoc was in because they were like, yo, I hope he does. I hope they give him an overhead and a low arm that they have to nerf later to make it not low anymore so that I can mix and vortex people. People were like, oh shit, Havoc. Why? Why did they request Havoc? Because of everything about the character, right? They didn't Melina and MK11. Why did they request Melina so much? They didn't say, "Oh, I want Melina so bad, but I hope she can't do any of her base moves in her kit, and I have to spend a slot to equip them. But then there's a confliction, so I still can't equip all of them. I hope they do that." No, they're picking these characters based on what they always loved about them. So when you're NRS and you bring Havoc back, and it's nothing like Havoc, it's like, well, why do you think this character was requested so much in the first place? They weren't requesting this Havoc be in your game. They were requesting Havoc, the Havoc you already created. And that's
Yes,
what I think he's talking about.
I was under the assumption that these characters coming back from like they haven't been in a game in over 20 years were for the people that played the older MK games back then for nostalgia, not to bring them back and rebrand them as something completely different. Because at that point, why not just design a clean new character? But to go to Darius, like I remember the first thing I tried to test with Darius is I went through his moves. I'm like, where is his low attack? Where is his low attack? I was looking and he didn't have one. He had this move where you spin him that reminded me. Do you guys remember MK11 Joker? He had that string. I think it was 211. Who would
With
grab
the
a
wheel,
corpse and
yeah.
spin it around. I'm like, okay, so they gave a repurposed Joker string for Havoc, and I guess it's supposed to be. I mean, sorry, not Havoc, Darius. And I guess it's supposed to be Darius's throwback to him spinning around to do the Cyrus kick. Okay, that's fine. But then he has these other moves. He has an axe kick. Okay, not really what he did in Deception, but sure. And then what was the other move? He does like this tag in, like jump punch kick, which is kind of like the Noob Saibot tag thing from Deception, but not really Darius's thing. So I don't know. When you look at characters, to me, I feel like we bring them back. And Serena, Serena has a single knife toss in MK12. It's in there. It's just so bad. What is the point of it? Why not just make it cost like 1/3 of one cameo bar and make it fast and do low damage so it could be a Serena knife from Armageddon? So we could throw them 6 times. Something like I don't, how's it so hard to ask? That costs 1 bar to use, yet the other one costs 1 bar, but the boomerang gives you a full combo. And I guess I know that one comes back a little bit slower, but still, it's like a huge missed opportunity here. When Serena was known for throwing a quick recovering dagger, they could have at the very least made that her single dagger throw move be that.
Well, that's one of the quickest actually assists in the
Recovering
game.
ones,
I
yeah.
believe it's like 3 or 4 seconds.
And
That's
also,
actually
Dave,
one
when
of
you say things have changed, I just want everybody.
hold on, hold on. You guys, hold on. It's my turn now. I'm sorry, but you guys have said a lot. First of all, Deception was released in 2004. It's 2025 now, so to be 2026. That's so essentially 21 years ago. That's already a lot older than any of our players. One of our strongest players right now, is Online Kale, Connie Money. Those people, as far as I know, are under 21. So I'm all for legacy. I want Darius to have all those moves that I once experienced. But here's a news flash: people don't care. Why? Because they're not old enough. So this whole topic is a typical FGC
Well,
bubble.
when
Dave,
I
then
This is
look
go
what
off to my point earlier. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you guys off. Then why not redesign new characters? Don't bring back these old nostalgic characters when they're not for people that play them during for nostalgia. Then who are
well,
they for? Who are they for?
well, let me say this. Let me say this.
They're
Well,
not. They're not for the people that played Deception back then. Then who are they for?
well, they're for newer players. Obviously, that's you kind of making the point for me. It's the same thing with Bison, right? In Street Fighter 5, he didn't get the Psycho Crusher till much later or something like that, right? So obviously, characters evolve, games evolve. That doesn't necessarily mean I agree. I disagree plenty of times, right? I
wait a
think
minute now, I disagree
MK1,
with you.
hold
No,
on, MK1 has a lack of defense and zoning, and I'm for that. But some people like that because that's the way the game people want to play, right? The quick example, and I'll promise I'll shut up. But like Taminar and well, Rio for you at that matter as well. We were used to like zoning in MK9 and Injustice 1. Then you have a player like Ninja Killer who started with MKX. His concept of zoning will be completely different than what we're used to, right? Because he started a completely different game. And I think if you're the designers and you're a developer, well, you have to kind of consider that, right? Because the world doesn't evolve just about how we perceive fighting games and how we perceive gameplay styles. It also involves the other people as well. That's all I'm saying.
By the way, some quick lore on Ninja Killer. He was actually a Tekken player first before he went to MKX. A quick lore, because I know a lot of people don't know that. They think he came out of nowhere during MKX and that was it.
they don't know. Yeah.
So just a little
Well,
lore drop.
you say if the games have evolved, Dave. I just watched MK1 have their first final combat after a year of patches include only 2 characters and 2 cameos for the entire top 8, the same 2 for each. Peacemaker, Kano, Johnny Cage, Chameleon. Then the first Evo was a Johnny Mirror. Then I'm watching tournaments now, and I'm still seeing hard to blockables. Look, we all saw Kanemani versus Online Kill. That's basically unblockable. He didn't block it once. I mean, like, but still winning right now. Safe mix, safe vortex, uh, hard to blockables. That's what's winning right now in the game. That's all the game is at the highest level. And you're saying games evolve. These are players that swear they would rather cut themselves than play a game that has all these mix-ups and whatever. We want defense and footsies. And yet all they do is continuously get games that give you safe vortex, safe mix, and hard to blockables. And they seem the same to me. That was what won in MK Deception. And here we go 20 something years later. It's still what's winning in Mortal Kombat. Evolve how?
Well, evolve from a person who doesn't watch the game and honestly is way out of. So today, ironically, the second placer was a sector player, and if Crimson were here, he would blow the fuck out of me. The player who won was
Whoa,
the
whoa, whoa!
Brazilian.
Pause. What?
What?
What did you say,
Well,
Play
first of
Dave? The
all,
way you said that was so bad.
well, hold on. Let me
You
finish my
said he
Go
point.
would
ahead, blow
blow
him up.
the f out of you. I think you mean he would
Yeah,
blow
he
you
would.
up, bro. The
Yeah,
way you
blow me
worded it
up.
was so bad. Anyway,
Hold
sorry.
on.
Go. I just wanted to make sure
Let,
the audience understands that that's not what Dave meant.
no, they
Anyway,
do
go.
Yeah,
understand.
the vodka's
They
out.
do understand. Here's the point. You guys are like strictly talking from people who don't play the game anymore, which by the way is fine. Like, you had your experience, you didn't like the game and you quit. Is
When
that
am I
fair to
being?
say?
Hold on. I'm not even saying I don't like the game or I think the game is bad. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's a good game. I stopped playing the game after 2 months in because it wasn't as
I
interesting to
know,
me. But I'm not
but
saying,
Tom,
hey, people should stop playing the game or MK12 is bad. I'm not saying it at all. I think it's a good game in its own way. To
well,
me, I think there's pros and cons to every game they made. MK12 just has some things I don't like in it, but it has some things I do like in it.
no, okay, fair enough. But I'm just saying it. Like when Tom talks, it clearly tells me he doesn't play the game and he doesn't follow the scene anymore. Like Sector just got top 2. She's not a mix-up character. She's exact opposite. She's a zoning character. And all I was saying is that if Crimson were here, he
With a
would
safe
criticize
armored launcher.
Wait a
With
minute,
safe armored launcher.
Dave. I hate to do this because look, I didn't keep up with MK12. I didn't watch any tournaments. However, a month ago, I did end up watching MK12 top 8 because I was at a watch party with some friends and they're not competitive players, so they were watching it. I saw some, and I'm like, wow. When I said this way back 2 years ago with Detroit and them, even remember Dave when I called you in the first few weeks, and I was like, I don't like MK12. It's like MKX with better neutral. Remember that? And you were like, you're kind of like you're kind of being dramatic, this and that. I'm like, dude, this game feels like MKX with better neutral. What I saw in the top 8 at Evo was literally people winning with doing these obnoxious mix-ups repeatedly. I saw this player who used his name Online Kale, which by the way, I didn't even know that was Online Tony's son.
Yeah,
That's
he is.
so crazy and awesome because I remember playing Online Tony way back in MK9. So that's insane that he has his son now that's also placing top 8. That's awesome. But one thing I saw was there were so many mix-ups everywhere. Like Online Kale, who looked like he was pretty good at the game. He looked like he has really good fundamentals. The way he plays, he's very confident. He can be aggressive. He can zone, do that. But a lot of the matches he lost were because the opponent he was playing against, and this is not a shot at the player, because people please need to just separate the art from the artist, please. When I say something about Sindel, I'm not insulting the Sindel players that use her. I'm talking about the character, not you. The opponent he was playing against had this condition. And this condition, which was so powerful, it basically gives you a hard to blockable where you can hit your opponent, make them guess wrong, and you get a mix-up for devastating damage. You can win rounds off that. And if you were to ask him, well, how do you set up this devastating condition? All you have to do is block a string and have cameo. That's it. So Online Kill is literally playing against this person, trying his best. But then he blocks a string, and I lost count of how many times the Sindel player did a string unblocked, call cameo, opened them up. It happened so many times. And I couldn't help but feel bad for this player because it looked like he was losing to some bullcrap. Not to excuse any of the games I played in the past, because we know all games are full of bullcrap. But you would think a game that has received so many patches, that is in the new era where we don't have to deal with dumb stuff like this, how we used to back then when we used to play, that it's still here and players are still having to deal with this frustrating design. And then I'm watching Sonic Fox, which again, no shot at Sonic. I think he's the best NRS player by far, and he's the most skilled player. He would find a different way to win, even if they fix this. But I'm watching Sonic throw bombs on people. These people are reading what Sonic is going to do. They know Sonic is going to throw a bomb, walk up, throw him, and they know this, but yet, when they tech the throw, and I'm seeing on the screen, throw is tech, they still get launched for a full combo. In what world can you know what your opponent is going to do, guess successfully, and still get full comboed? In other games like Street Fighter and so on, when you tech a throw, do you know what happens? Your character's invincible during the throw tech. Do you want to know why? Because it would be stupid as hell if Blanca can do a setup with his Blanca doll, grab you, you tech it, and then your character gets launched. It's like, what? Are we not going to reward defense here? He knew he was going to do that. He tech throw. Why am I getting launched? When you see stuff like that, it's a bust kill.
And then they have to guess right like 3 times in a row, and then when they do,
Yeah,
and
so I'm like, well, how is that
man.
still in the game? We were dealing with this in MKX. I remember Hunter Predator could do that too. The only difference is Hunter Predator had god awful neutral. I'm not saying Sarx has good neutral, but I'm sure Sarx has better neutral than Hunter Predator. And Hunter Predator wasn't like trap, 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 trap. Now there's 4 traps as you're getting up. Am I gonna jab, grab? Like it wasn't like that. You could throw, combo them. If you jumped it, whatever, you were out. Sarx, however, can jab check you. You can't know the difference between jab or throw. And even when you do get strike and tech, you still get launched and you still stuck there and you still have to get combo again. It's just ridiculous that somehow hasn't been fixed. All they would have to do to simply fix that is to make it so when you tech a throw, you're invincible so you can't get launched. And by the way, it would still be good for Sarx. It wouldn't kill Sarx because guess what? The throws are still unreactable 50-50 tech. You still have to guess left or right.
Yeah, and also for those, but the Kanamani thing, the string he's talking about is back 2 into the levitate and the drop down punch. If you guys want to look up Kanimani versus Online Kale, you can watch that at Evo. And basically, the win condition was if Online Kale blocked back 2 at all, he lost. I mean, he's going to get hit and lose a shit ton of life. So it wasn't like, sure, you can set it up. So the problem is, it was if he got hit and Cameo wasn't part of it, wasn't part of the condition. So he got hit, he got comboed, knocked down. And then here comes the win condition with the Cameo for a double combo reset. Or even if he blocked back 2, he got hit. So there were so many scenarios in which Kale could not get hit or block sometimes. And it's like, what do you do in that instance? And to Rio's point, it's like, these are the things that we keep hearing. Oh, thank God, this is the new era. We don't have to deal with that anymore. My issue with them going away from how things were when, like, if I would say it's fun, or you, Dave, or Rio, is, you see the stuff you guys had to deal with? Nobody wants to deal with that. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to get rid of a lot of the archetypes and a lot of the things that made MK fun in the era of balance, what the hell am I looking at on the screen? Because it certainly is the same bullshit we all had to deal with. So all this talk, all these patches, all these removing play styles and archetypes and changing characters around and blah, 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 blah for the era of balance, and the same shit is still happening.
Yeah, so let me just mention one more thing. Sorry, not to cut you off, Tom.
No, go ahead.
Regarding Sector, and I hate to say this, Dave, but dude, please stop calling Sector just a zoner card. People are not playing Sector to zone, bro. You know what I see when I see Sector on the screen? I see people doing an unreactable armor launcher, getting a full combo, and then I'm seeing Sonic Fox walk up and do harder blockables with Kung Lao and opening people up. Some of the best players right now in the scene. Now, again, I'm not saying any of these players are bad or anything. I'm just looking at the game.
Wow, not anymore. And I was using Cyrex, but
no, I saw Sonic using Sector in Top 8 Evo, and he beat someone by doing Sector's overhead while there was a Kung Lao low hat on the screen. So even a character who's a zoner has these hard blockables and is throwing out armor launchers left and right like we're playing MKX. My point is, look, it's not a shot at the game. I'm not saying the game has to be fixed or patched. This is fine. I just hope for MK13 in the future, NRS can look at the game and be like, you know what? Let's try and make a game more reliant on skill. It's not about nerfing any stuff because it's broken. It's about, here's the problem with some of the games out right now. You're watching a game, you see something happen in a tournament, instead of you being in awe and being like, wow, that was awesome. Wow, you're like, oh, you got hit by that bull crap. Oh, the hard to block. We shouldn't feel like that when we're watching a tournament match with some of the best players in the scene playing. It should be exhilarating, and you should be in just amazement at how good the gameplay is, not because you're seeing someone get hit by some bull crap that makes you sigh. Like, that stuff needs to get looked at. For MK13, they need to have, if you're going to keep strong stuff like that in the game, like hard to blockables, please, for the sake of the game, make it require skill. Stop making the conditions so easy and brain dead where it's just you block a string and you use a bar. Like, you cannot have that anymore in these new games. Please just add skill to it. I'm not saying it's easy to balance. I'm saying you need to add skill to these scenarios. You need to reward
a lot. Let me debunk every single thing you just said. as far as I don't know, oh my God, these games are so unbalanced now. I thought we were hoping for
That's not what I
better.
was saying. That's not what I was
Hey,
Well,
let
then
me
saying.
then
say
keep
this.
I
that
don't
then
Uh, even
we're
care much
still
about
dealing with the same
balance.
guys,
stuff.
let me respond. You said a lot. You said a
We didn't
lot. Let
say
me
balance.
respond.
We didn't say balance. Be accurate.
Okay, Menardi just won with Blanca. Blanca's a mid-tier character. Uh,
I
the
don't want to hear about Street Fighter, Mortal
East. Here's
Combat.
another. I'll talk
I
about
thought we were
Mortal
talking about
Kombat.
Mortal
One
Kombat.
by one. One by one. Easy, easy, easy. Very easy evidence. The esports world championship for Tekken was just by one the Dragon,
Mortal
who's been nerfed
Kombat,
multiple
Dave.
times. Here's the Mortal Kombat example. Lavender Rain just one with Takeda in versus fighting. He's supposed to be like a high mid-tier character. You guys are picking and choosing what wins. And by the way, I'm the first
Dave,
one to say,
wait. What is this argument? No, you didn't even
guys,
understand what
can I
you
say,
no. Wait, but Dave, no, you're confusing everything.
That
That's
stuff
not what
is
I
still
said.
in the game.
You're
That stuff is
talking
still in the
about
game, Dave.
you're talking well, Dave is talking about something completely. He's talking about players and tournament results. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
you
about the
are
game
talking,
that
you just listen to
no,
every
I'm not.
single result that you
I
dislike.
literally
You
just
talk about
said what I
tournament.
said was, hey, these players are good. I'm not talking about them. Please separate the art from the artist. I said Sonic Fox is great. He would find something else to win with if this wasn't in the game. What I'm talking about is the game mechanics and what's in the game that is bullcrap. I'm not talking about the characters that can win or not.
Yeah, what he's saying is, Dave, regardless of whether Lavender Rain just went with Takeda or not, what we're saying is these near unblockables are still in the game that we've been
Doesn't
dealing
do a
with since the
blockable.
beginning of
Sector
time.
doesn't do a blockable. Nerfed Havoc doesn't do a
We're
blockable.
just talking about Dave.
Let
I
me.
don't give
I'm listing, by the way, the characters you guys said didn't.
Dave.
Not to.
Dave, you're
I'm
Dave is
mentioning the characters. Guys, can I talk? Or are you just gonna
Dave,
talk over
I,
me?
no,
You
no, Dave, because
guys talking about 5 minutes. Can I make a
bro,
point?
you're
If not,
literally
I can just
mentioning
leave,
something.
and
You
you guys
said
can
nerf it.
rant. Can I make my point? Is that not
Yes,
allowed?
you
You
can.
guys
Right?
running a lot. I shut
Go
my
ahead.
mouth.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Disingenuous point coming up. Go
Takeda
ahead.
does no block. I'm listing the versus fighting top 8. Melina, Homelander, Cyrex, fair
Hold on,
enough.
stop. Look, there's a huge disconnect here. You're arguing for something that we're not making for an argument. There's what you're talking about, or you're talking about character balance and results. I'm not talking about. Nobody is here saying,
You
"Hey
are
guys,
talking about.
no, no." Let me explain. This is like saying when I was mentioning MKX Devora, hey guys, MKX Devora is a problem. This is not enjoyable gameplay. This is too brain dead. Nobody was sitting there going like, but the tournament results, Devora hasn't won any major MKX. Yes, we understand. That's something else. You're talking about players and skill and all that. I'm talking about good design and bad design. Having a character that does brain dead stuff to you is not fun to play against. All you have
Sindel
to
is not
do
brain dead.
my
Sector
point
is
is, you're
not brain
mentioning
dead.
this is like saying pre-patch Devora is fine and whatever because where are the people winning with her, bro? You're missing the argument. That's not what we're talking about. What
I'm
I'm
not even
talking
winning.
about,
Dave is talking
Sindel is.
about they literally just did a patch after Evo Rio. So Dave is saying, well, let's not count the first 2 years of the game. Let's talk about now that the game is dead. Dave,
but did Dave not
the
hear the
game
part where I
the game
said,
is
hey,
over.
they don't have to change MK12 to keep it how it is. I'm talking about for MK13, the future of the next game. They have to do things differently. They have to just time make sure the game is in a lot better state. And when people watch it and they say it and they play it, it's way more enjoyable than the
Yeah, I
current
mean,
past and rest games.
what Rio is saying is it doesn't matter whether you want to point to the early days of hard to blockable Sindel Kung Lao. You could say, oh, he can still do that, but they nerfed this or that, or the early days of this thing, whatever, were nerfed. Even 2 years into the game's life at Evo, what was still winning were hard, near unblockables, Cyrex Vortex pressure, all this other stuff. And it was very simple and easy to do. And
But
we've
it's
only,
not easy to do. That's what you guys
listen,
are missing.
Dave, what I'm
If it
saying
were
is,
so easy to do, we would see 4 Cyrex in the top 8.
you know
By the
what?
way,
Dave
You know
cannot
what? I don't want to hear this
separate.
shit because you know what? People in this community today say, "Oh, Cabal was easy to do." You're making an argument that people today make about older games, saying it was easy, and we're not saying it doesn't take skill. We're saying that clearly, even in MK9, even the most broken stuff took skill. We're not saying that a guy off the street can walk into Evo and beat online Kale with it. What we are saying is that these are things that we have been dealing with in Mortal Kombat, these tactics with, for a lack of better words, people have dubbed as scrubby or simple or whatever, which
you're
would
the one
include
doing the dubbing. You are the one who's saying that. What do you mean, other people? You are the one saying on this
what
podcast that this stuff is
we
scrubby.
listen to what I'm
What
Real,
even
it's
gonna
easy.
is this topic though, Dave? We're all talking about something else. I'm not talking
we're just
about
saying that
the
these are
character
things
balance and who's winning or losing. I'm not talking about the character
no,
balance, Dave. I'm
we're
talking about having good design and not in a game. This is not about can every character win a tournament? The game is balanced. Or why are you saying this is unfair? Where are all the people winning every tournament? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
Hey, you want to talk about what's good stuff? Welcome to fighting games, in which if you give me 10 terms, 5 we will agree with, 5 we will fight to the death probably, right? Because we will disagree so much. You hate armor. I think armor's fine. I love zoning.
I never said I hate armor. Just putting
Well,
words in my
fair
mouth.
enough. The
And what
armor
he's
that the armor that
saying,
we're used to in NRS games, right? You don't like. Is that fair to say?
It depends on the armor move. I think some armor move, if it's
this game
designed
was
creatively, it's good. But when they design it in a brain dead way, no, it's not good. It's very bad design.
You're
for
gonna have
almost the
brain dead
entire life of
offense.
the game. Maybe they have in the final patch gotten rid of the last of it. But this game, throughout every instance, has had safe armored launchers, has had these.
Very few. I wish you had more, but unfortunately it
Hold on,
doesn't.
listen.
Dave, honest
Watch
question
what honey
here.
does to your diabetes.
Yeah.
This
Honest question here. Do you want the game, the future NRS games, do you want them to grow and become bigger than they are today? Yes or no?
Of course.
Then they're going to have to start incorporating skill into their games, okay? I understand they want games to sell, be casualized. They can do that, but you cannot have everything be jumbled together. They can make separate casual modes, all this crazy fun stuff. You have to make sure the game, the tournament standard, whatever it is based on skill and dedication and all that stuff. You cannot have the game be super easy and brain that where you have, hey guys, what does this character do? Oh, dead shot. He just spams one projectile over and over. Anyone off the street could do that.
I have
No,
two
that's not good
guys on
design.
the podcast. One who's telling me balance doesn't matter, bitch does nothing but complain about balance his entire fighting game career. That's Tom. The other one is Rio, who's telling me that
Can you
um
give me an example, Rio? How many times
Rio.
did you and
Oh, please, Rio, can you be honest now? Oh yeah, thank you for mentioning.
Rio?
Go
How
ahead.
many
Rio,
times did you and I sit there and grind Sub-Zero versus Cabal?
A lot.
Out of all the people you've played, who would you say just sat there and grinded and didn't talk about how dumb the character is?
Cabal vs. Sub-Zero, you.
How many other high-level players played much better characters and would say Cabal's too much, ban him, get him out of the game, etc.? Many
Most
of
of
them,
them. Most of them.
but not me. I am not one of those people that cried about balance. Saying a matchup is bad or hard to win doesn't mean I want it to be more balanced. Because, see, I understand that in order for me to do what I want to do, you've got to be able to do what you want to do. And sometimes that might mean I'm in a really unfair situation, but I would rather deal with that than not have what I find enjoyable to be in the game in general. Now, all Rio is saying is not about matchups or characters or balance. What he is saying is that the things that we have had to deal with in NRS games, that apparently NRS has been hell bent that their games are no longer going to have these things anymore. They're not going to, yet, despite MK game after MK game, and now in this game, patch after patch, it's the new era, it's all this stuff. Yet, it's like, wait a minute, why are we still seeing hard, if not unblockable situations, even on block? Why are we still seeing these stupid safe vortexes? Overhead low throw situations like that, and all of them combo. We're like, these were things that NRS for the longest time were hell bent. They were going to change the way the game is done. They were going to take out these type of characters, because it's going to be more balanced. It's going to be, meaning not so much in character variety, but as far as we're not going to see these same unblockable slash hard to blockable vortex mix situations anymore. And yet they're still here, game after game after game later. So even NRS is like, we're going to remove XYZ, XYZ, all these different archetypes, all this stuff, because we don't want this scrubby stuff in the game anymore, quote unquote. I'm not saying that's just how they look at it, right? They would call what you did, Dave, zoning scrubby. It's just the
We're
term they
not
use.
calling it scrubby, except I'm just inferring it's Rio. Can you also be honest in this respect? How many people made 10 videos crying about Jackie and MK11? Content creators?
A lot, but
It
Tom
was,
was probably the biggest one.
Okay.
but it was,
So this is a guy who claims he never cares about balance, completely innocent, never done anything wrong in his life, complained about Jackie, called Fujin on release overrated.
I never
All
said that.
videos,
You
all
called him
videos,
overrated. I didn't
all
call him overrated.
videos
I didn't call
magically
him overrated.
Actually,
gone. Never,
Tom, you did say Fujin was whatever when he did come out.
I said, I
all
don't know if
videos
he is
magically disappear. Like
either
Ares
good
is
or bad.
teleporting just this one. So I don't mind people having opinions. Just please, for this Jesus Christ's sake, try to at least be somewhat
Okay,
consistent
well,
on this issue.
David, since you want to go back there, actually, what I said about Jackie in countless videos was I used Jackie as my example as to why the point skill-based point system of the variation system was broken. What I said was NRS is so lazy that they have, I use Jackie as the example. You have these moves in this game that are terrible, that have 2 skill slot points, and it almost weighs down a character's kit to where you really can't put the character together in a proper slash customizable fashion. Then you have characters like Jackie. I said Jackie and characters like her. I said, but Jackie, where you have extremely powerful moves that are one slot that allow you to combine multiple devastating moves collectively into one. And then you have other characters who are kind of weighed down and limited, and they're limited by the slotting. I said it's called the Jackie problem, where they put all these moves in the game. They never went back and looked at them and said, "Oh, this move is too weak. Let's make it one slot. This move
Tom,
is
you're
too
right
strong."
about that, but Dave isn't talking about that specific Jackie video he made. He's talking about all the other Jackie videos he made, where
Yeah,
she's
and then
breaking the rules of the game. Everything she's doing is a combo, too
no, what
safe. You
what
can't
I, what I
breakaway. This
used,
is dumb.
what
Like,
I used, but again, I used the Jackie as the
To mention
example.
the fact that you never complain about balance ever, you don't care about it, is
I didn't.
honestly a joke. We
It
all
was not.
complain, just say
It
we
was
did, and
not
just move on with your
about.
life.
It was never about balance. I never ever talked about the balance of MK11.
Ria, you don't.
Tom, you were literally saying Jackie is too dumb. She needs to
What
get
I
toned
said,
down.
what I said was that Jackie, characters like her play her own game, and
No,
I
I
said they need.
understand. I remember seeing the video you said of this, but you had a bunch of other videos about Jackie too. And even on
I
your
did. No,
stream, when we were playing Jackie's
I
on
did.
Twitch, you would go
I did.
crazy.
I talked
And
about
that's
like she.
fine. But
I
this
said
is
she
world.
plays her own game. I said she plays her own game, and then when they released the
Well,
custom
you
variation.
also use the phrase she's breaking the rules of the game. Like she shouldn't be allowed to do any of that.
Well, because people use that, I use that as an example when people banned when they said certain moves have to be banned because they're breaking the rules of the game. So I was like, well, what rules of the game are they breaking? I was like, you can point to several characters and say they're breaking the quote unquote rules of the game. I'm like, they needed to redo the variation system. It wasn't about me saying Jackie is too strong or not strong enough. It's the characters are there to be a little more freestyle, all be as powerful as that, or maybe even more powerful. But what I was saying is that the game right now, most of the characters are limited to poke, 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 down one, back dash, etc. And then you have characters like Jackie, Fujin, Kotal Khan, Cabal, who are more dominant because every character kind of plays the same game. Sub-Zero was only considered good because they had a 50-50 when every other character was doing down one, back dash, flawless block. Um, so it was a very, it wasn't about balance. It was about, I don't understand why they don't open this game up more. You have this custom variation system. The slotting is all messed up. You release Ultimate and you don't uh, reslot certain moves. You still have conflictions and restrictions. And like, what are you doing? That's really what I was trying to make the point about. Not saying you should nerf Jackie, but
Well, I have
Dave's
a
not,
feeling.
but Dave was just talking about not
Ria,
that one video where you explained this, but the other videos he made about her.
respect. This is a losing argument for us. I mean, if he wanted to, he could easily re-upload those videos and people could judge for themselves. But I have a feeling that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I
Look,
think
this
this.
is going beyond the point. The point is right now we're talking about character specific balance. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is you can have no one's saying you have to remove hard to blockables or whatever this and that. Just make it require skill. That's it. We don't have
talking
to
about
remove hard to
balance.
blockables.
Again, Dave is still talking about
But
balance,
we're
which
not
is
talking
not
about character
about balance.
viability. Again, Tom, Devore and MKX, very brain dead character, did not win anything. Does that mean she was balanced? I mean,
No, no. But my
you can
point is
have
that
characters like Devore B plus 20 over everything, but just make it require skill. Please. Why
I don't
can't we do
understand
that?
why Dave doesn't see the fact that NRS has supposedly been making these conscious efforts to remove stupid vortexes, unblockable slash hard to blockables, safe mix, etc. And they have made multiple decisions in removing certain archetypes to basically by
Yeah,
saying
but here's
we
the
don't
thing.
want
I feel
we
like
don't want to
NRS
see
tries to do
anymore.
stuff. They just don't. Like, I don't know how they keep making the same mistakes, but I hate to go back to Injustice 2 because I was not a fan of that game. That's also another game I stopped playing after 5 months. But in Injustice 2, there was a Vortex character, Black Canary. She wasn't broken, and her vortex was actually well balanced. You want to know why? You have to manage the resource on her restand scream. So she was a vortex character with 50/50s, but done right. There was actually skill behind it. It wasn't just brain dead, walk up, you got hit by down one. Now you have to get some miracle 50/50 into whatever. That's how you do a 50/50 character. Then you had other characters like you had Enchantress. Do you guys remember her in that game? Dave, are you familiar with that character?
I am, but it
Enchantress.
doesn't
Okay, so
matter.
I'm bringing her up because she had hard to blockables. But the thing with her is you had to set it up. You had to first be in a good position, then you had to call your trait, then you had to get your opponent in a position where they would have to block the trait overhead while you go for low. That right there is a hard to blockable. However, when you saw an Enchantress pull that off, you weren't like rolling eye, Sindel doing it again every round. It was wow. He set that up. He deserved to get that hard to blockable. This is all I'm saying. You can have all this stuff in games. Just please make it be behind skill and actual effort, not just what is your win condition? Oh, I'm playing Sony in Mortal Kombat X. I hit you with a down one. Because of that, I get my ultimate condition. Unreactable overhead or low into combo. Like, what is that? Aren't we supposed to be playing games that are, supposed to be a lot better than games were back then when there were no patches?
I don't have that much time left. What is the solution? Because we can go around circle. In your opinion, what is the solution for NRS?
There's no solution.
I'm not saying that, look, forget about MK12. They can leave MK12 how it is. They can keep patching it. They don't need to do anything. Characters stay the same. For MK13, what they have to do is this. When they design any character, whether it's a zoner, offense, trap character, whatever it is, please just make it so there's actual skill and effort behind the character. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of execution. There's a lot of time you have to put into it to play this character properly. I don't want to be playing Combat League against random dude 308 and the dude hit me with a down one with Ermac and MKX. Now I have to block this unreactable 50/50 into a full combo. Like, they need to start making fighting games require a lot more effort to play than what they've been doing lately. That's all I'm saying. And to their credit, they have done that with some characters like Geras and a few other characters. Some of these characters require actual effort and they have depth. They just need to apply that to every character. Stop picking and choosing which characters require skill with, and then other characters being like, yeah, that character, you don't need skill. You just do that. And by the way, top 3. Like, no. That I think needs to stop.
It's a nonsense issue because every fighting game is broken and quote unquote skill issues. Something that requires skill. So even that can be debatable depending who you ask, right? If you ask the community, a lot of the people who are playing this game right competitively about Gears, they think he's completely broken, doesn't require a lot of skill. Other people, other people think that he does. So it's a nonsense issue. The question, my perspective is actually goes back to agreeing with Tom. You want to have stupid offense. You want to have stupid vortex.
Your mic cut out. Dave. Dave, your mic cut out. Hold on, guys. Let me try leaving and reconnecting. Hello, Dave?
You can't type on this channel, bro. What
Your
is
mic cut out. I had to leave and re-enter because you were saying something and you stopped for like 20 seconds.
Well,
Dave?
Tom says he can hear you. Can you hear me now? Are we good?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. So I don't care about skill levels. That's always been irrelevant to me. I agree with Tom's argument. Initial argument is that if you're gonna have stupid offense, please have stupid defense. I literally don't care about skill. I don't play fighting games for skill. It means nothing to me.
What?
I don't.
How could you be
Correct.
a fighting game player and not want your games to be amazing to play? That to me is ludicrous. You would even say that.
Well, the
You were
only
playing a
time-
fighting game, you want it to be branded, not require skill, then why don't we go back to deception? Are you kidding me? What are you talking
saying-
about?
Here's what I'm talking about. I think skill only matters at like a very low level because you don't want to have like a character like, for example,
Skill matters at
Deathshot
a
or
low level.
Deathstroke or like.
But you're literally explaining what I'm saying. You need to have less of that. Make
saying-
all the good characters require skill, execution, and effort. What is wrong with that?
Example, if you want to talk for another 2 hours about how people disagree what skill even means, I just told you about Geras.
I just gave you an example. Who is harder to get an unblockable with? Enchantress and Injustice, her setup? Or MKX Quan Chi? Like, are we being serious? Like, come on.
No, obviously, but the point is, Sindel is not scrubby. I don't think even Cyrex, as much as I despise that character, I don't think it's scrubby. I think that stuff does require execution, does require setup knowledge, does require knowledge, when to throw the bombs, etc.,
I
You
etc.
never
could say the
said
same thing about
Sarek's.
Kamal
I
in
never
K9.
said Sarek's
You
execution has to be changed. He's actually good design. There's one thing I talked about. I guess when I said earlier, I must have went over your head. The throw thing needs to be fixed. That's it. Everything about Sarx is fine. Everything else is fine. Yes, actually just set up solid. That's good. They need to have more of that in characters where you actually require more effort.
Okay,
That so your
again,
your argument about Sarx actually is going off
to
of what
me,
I'm saying pretty much.
on a broader
The only
issue,
brain dead thing about Sarx is that you can throw a bomb, you can grab them, they can read what you're doing, read your throw, and then still get launched. That's the only brain dead thing.
been consistent for the past 20 years, and I will be. Bring on the high power levels. If they're scrubby, so be it. That's what fighting games are.
But what
Just
do high
give me
power?
mine. Real, let me finish,
I
please.
feel
You can
like when I
respond.
have an argument, no, Dave. Here's the problem though. The last three topics we've had right now in this episode have been you completely missing the point and going off about something else. What does having a character require skill have to do with power levels? What does a character requiring skill have to do? Are they viable to win a tournament? Where are they winning? That's not. You're arguing two different things. A character can have a very high power level but require a lot of effort. Look at Fox in Smash Melee, one of the most broken, overpowered characters to exist. Yet he is one of the hardest characters to master ever. So I don't understand what you're talking about. You think that for a character to be a high power level, they have to be easy and brain dead. No, you got it completely wrong. That's all I'm saying. And I should do.
Not
They should
really.
work on. They should
Every
work.
fighting game. Let me go real quick, Tom. I promise I'll be respectful of your time. Super Turbo Claw, guys, look it up, please. Third Strike Quan Chi, look her up. Um, MK9, pick anybody. I guess Sonya would be the best example because she has super armor. If people play this game to this day, that's who you would see nonstop. Um, in Ultimate, you can go a couple directions. You can probably go Nightwolf, who's shaved shoulder. That's how you have to duck. You can probably go Reptile if you want the zoning route. This topic is just nonsense. You want me to go more? Tekken 5.0 Steve, um, Tekken 5 DR. Again, you could go as Julia. I mean, it just goes on and
What are
on.
you
There's no
talking
such
about?
thing.
What are you even saying?
I'm talking about easy to use top tiers that people will pick up and play and probably
But
place
that's not
well.
even
And
what I said. I said you want to avoid that. You do not want. Tom, am I talking in?
No, I know what you
okay,
said.
name me like fighting games that kind of avoid that, but still have the
I'm
same
not
issue. Yeah,
saying there's no fighting games that don't have easy to play top tiers. What I'm saying is, in the future of fighting games, since nowadays you're comparing these old games, by the way, where patches didn't exist. Back then, when you played the game, you were stuck with what you have. Now we're in the future, as you like to say, with better technology and all this. This is what you do: you improve games. You don't make them worse. So we don't need more brain dead characters that play like Deadshot, more brain dead cameos that play like pre-patch Sarks. We don't need that. What we need is characters that play more like, I guess, Cyrax, if you could tech the throw and get out of it, or Gears, or whatever other example you want to use of a good design character in MK12 that actually requires effort and skill. That's what I'm talking about.
I'll let Tom jump in. I don't believe in brain deadness. I believe in respecting the skill of a
Well, you
player.
must have not played a lot of games then if you don't believe in brain deadness. You should have played Deception. You would have seen a lot of it. Anyway, go ahead, Tom.
I did actually.
It doesn't
But
believe in
I
brain
believe,
deadness, even though it literally exists in some games.
I think what
all
Rio
right,
is
thank
saying
you.
is we're in a game like Deception and even
Which is one of
MK9.
the worst fighting games ever made, but I don't know why we're using that as an example.
I'm gonna
Actually, in
tell
my
you.
opinion, Deception is the best Mortal Kombat game ever made. But competitively, yes, it's shit. But as a Mortal Kombat game,
Here's,
it is the best by far.
I think Rio's point is
Well, that's a separate
in a game
discussion.
like Deception, what you saw is what you get. There's no patching. And so when it comes out that way, get fucked. Um, even MK9, while they could patch it, they were very limited. We got very few patches. We didn't get after like I think 6-7 months, we didn't get another patch for the rest of the game. And they were very limited in what they could even patch. They were very limited by technology. Now the technological limitations of games of the past are no longer there. Yet, despite the fact that technology is so much better, we are still seeing the same hard to blockable, safe vortex, safe mix, same whatever that are very reminiscent of games that were in the old days when these things didn't exist. And all Rio was saying is in the modern era of technology, I understand why those things were in those games. Why are we seeing a repeat of some of these things now? That's all that he's saying. He's like, you don't need to keep seeing those,
Yes, but
so
also I'm not saying they need to be removed. They can all be in the game. You can have hard to block balls, you can have 50, you can have zoning, you can have rush time, you can have all kinds of stuff. Just please make it require skill and effort. Don't make it brain dead.
He's like
I
he brought up Sindel and Tremor as the example. I understand, Dave. They just patched Tremor once the game was dead and nobody gave a fuck about it anymore after Evo. I understand that, but what he was trying to say was, here we have Evo, and literally it wasn't even a matter of like, oh, you got to set it up and blah blah blah. He's like, no, you could do back to on block, call Tremor, profit. And Rio's like, it should not be as simple as doing a string into a cameo and the combo is almost guaranteed. He's like, that is stupid. Like, he's like, that kind of stuff shouldn't be there. It should be required. The win condition, the setup condition should be there. Like, maybe it requires setup or
Well,
not
actually, I
setup,
had a
like,
perfect way to balance them though.
sure.
But Dave said they already fixed her though.
I mean, either way,
no,
the
no,
point,
they
I thought
my
you
fix
said they
was
added where you can't do hurdle blocks more. There's like 6 frames apart where there'll be mids or whatever.
well, no. The MK1 has always said unblockable protection. This is the reason why there's some skill involved in this, and only people like Sonic Fox, Connie Money, maybe one or two other players at most have actually won. I know winning. When I say winning, I even talk about placing, right? Even let's use the word placing
Yes, but Dave,
because
we're
I don't
not
want.
talking about the players with the character. You got to separate them, please. Like every time I feel like I talk about any character with you, it's about, well, wait a
point
minute,
from,
who are the players doing it, or where are the tournament results? Like
We
that's
have
you,
to
yeah.
talk about like what else are we judging it by? Like we have to judge it by something. If nobody's winning with or
He's saying
placing, what are
separate
we
because it's
doing?
possible for this to be true. It's possible for there to be a brain dead character in a game that's a problem that no one has won with yet. That's a possibility.
It's
He's just saying
possible, but it's
separate the
very
market.
low in the modern FGC because people have access to information more than ever. My solution, because both of you mentioned it, is not is to nerf very little. I've been very consistent on this, and I will be, and I don't care if people flame me. I'm about you want strong offense, I clap you. Good. But I want my strong defense and I want my strong zoning. And I promise you will not nerf everything about this. Even if it's quote unquote considered brain dead. You want to vortex me with Cyrax? Fair enough. But you will have to earn your way to get in. You will have to earn your way to touch me. And that's when everything falls apart because most people don't want that because they don't want to get around zoning. They don't want to get
No,
around.
no, no, no. See, you don't understand, Dave. Your opinion is all
Like,
skewed. It's not that people don't want zoning. When they think of zoning in NRS games, do I need to remind you what zoning comes to mind? It's the very brain dead, degenerate zoning that is unfun. You can have a very strong, high level, top tier zoner, but please let the zoner require effort and
And in
skill.
fact,
That's all. And I
I
feel
have
like I've said this 20 times already, but you're not understanding the correlation here. What I'm saying is going in one year of yours and coming out the other and not understanding what I'm saying. And then you bring up a different point. You can have what you want, Dave, all your playstyles. Just have it require skill. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. Also,
yeah,
by
as
the
long as
way,
there's some
I
kind of
have
skill definition that nobody can agree upon.
there are some
That's your
testers,
argument.
some people who were guest testers who obviously we can't name, who I've had conversations with, and they even say like whenever any strong zoning option comes up, all they have to do is say to Ed Boon, "Oh no, it'll be like Deadshot in Injustice 2," and Ed Boon's like, "Oh, we can't have that." So I mean, like, the problem is the only the person that has final say over everything, technically Ed Boon, doesn't understand fighting games. That's a huge issue. Number one. The only one who can truly overrule a bad decision is Ed, and he doesn't understand what is happening enough to do that. That's one. Two, I think guest testers, I think, were a really good idea. I think they should go back to bringing them in at a much earlier state. When they brought like people like myself and Rio in during like when they brought me in 9 and myself and Rio in X and Injustice 1, we came in with enough time to actually affect the final product, which we did. MKX, if you guys thought it was Unga Bunga now, you do not want to know what it was like when we were there.
Oh, they have no idea how that game. The board was full of so much stuff we wrote from after playing MKX beta that we couldn't fit anymore because it was just full.
Guys,
So many problems and issues.
Yeah. So I
Tech
think
2, I don't think we should be talking about. I think this is NDA
no, what I'm
contract.
no
You
no no
guys
no. What I'm saying is they
keep that
need
on
to.
the low.
No, what
Keep
I'm
that on,
saying is they
especially
need
if
to.
you want to work there ever again. Let's keep
Yeah,
this
what I'm
shit on the
saying is
low.
they need to go back to bringing guest testers in within a big enough window to actually have time to do something, not like 2 weeks before the game gets released. Also, several, actually all of them, except for two, who are not people I've talked to, but pretty much all of them outside of two who I never even got the chance to talk to about this. all said the same thing. Uh, we were there were a lot of things we really wanted to say. However, we were worried that we would not get the chance to come back. So while we did have some suggestions, we were very worried that we didn't want to get blacklisted by saying the wrong thing. So first of all, there is a very real fear that see back then we weren't like that. There was no like the shroud of you better not say X. Otherwise, they would have blacklisted all of us during MKX when we were there for testers. With half of the stuff we were insistent on. Um, but now it's very much like people feel like they're walking on eggshells, even when it's a bad system when you bring in people to test your game and they're afraid to give you the honest feedback because they're worried if it's not what you want to hear, they're going to be excommunicated. And that's stupid. The next thing is how they do betas. I feel like it's tough to patch characters properly after the initial reaction. Like Rio says, and it's true, first impressions mean everything. So, and MK11 is a great example. Like they had a beta, they didn't have any characters like Gearus, etc. All of a sudden, the game comes out. People are open arms over Gearus because he's got a million crushing blows with the easiest requirements. A whole bunch of his movement was good, etc.
80% combos.
So no matter how much they toned him down, it was never going to be enough for people. And they just kept taking and taking and taking. When you release better betas, and I don't mean you have to release the whole version of the game, but with the cameo system, right? Like, if they would have released Cyrex, even we would have. I mean, before the game even came out, it would have been like, hey, what is this, right? I mean, they don't release enough of the game for us to really get an idea. It's almost like they consciously know we can't show them this because there's going to be an uproar. So we won't show them this until the game comes out, which doesn't make any sense to me. Don't skew what the game actually plays like so we'll give you a good review during the beta. Release enough of the game for us to say, wait a minute, what is this, and give actual feedback. Um, which they should do. They should release maybe the beta for a little longer and a little more of the game so that we get a bigger picture of what the game actually plays like. And I think that's a big deal. And then also, to your points, MK1's first year, I'm in agreement with Dave and Rio. Especially when Rio's like, man, I just try to go online, dog, and I couldn't even fucking play. I mean, that's a killer, not just to the pro level, but even to the casual. Like when the word comes out that a game is abysmal online, it's a killer in the modern era, as that is pretty much where people play. So if you don't feel like you can go online and play a game with your friends, you guys are just going to move on to something else and not come back. But we do have this weird movement of what I call toxic positivity, in which it's caused a war in the community between the negative side and the positive side. If we all know the game was fucked in many ways year one, the people that really have the influence that NRS listens to were still too much on the can't say anything, got to be positive, not that bad, people are entitled. The evil bureaucracy that is Warner Brothers has chained NRS to the floor. Like people need to come out and say, "Hey, this is a real problem. Like I know you think you have more time, it's Mortal Kombat, but if this doesn't get fixed now, the word of mouth it's not going to turn around." This was the truth. Overall, we are way too divided as a community. The feedback system is completely broken. And when NRS actually, I guess, demos their product by way of a beta, they show us a certain part of the game to make it look like the game plays a certain way, and then releases the full game, and it's like, wow, it plays like this. And it's really tough. It's tough to change things when people have like even if NRS, no matter what they tried to do with Cyrex as a cameo, people were scarred by getting locked down by that copter. The only option they had was put that fucking move in the dirt because no matter what they did to it, people were going to scream at the top of their lungs if that move just kept going. When you release a game a certain way, as a full release, people already have a set view. Their impressions are one way. They forget it, don't fix it, don't whatever, get it out. During the beta, things can be a little over the top, and we could say, hey, it's a beta, guys, no big deal. And NRS can tweak it slightly, but not kill it by the time the game comes out. And I don't think it would be as big of a deal. Just the whole system of feedback and betas is just improperly done, which is why we have what we have. That whole system has to be looked at from NRS if you really want to get the best product.
Yeah,
I mean, what do let me I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you. I mean, where do I start with all this nonsense? Let me just protect my testers from my scene. They did a great job. They did what they could. Let me just do a quick example. Um, if my job is to teach social studies in a building, I'm not there to run the building. That's the principal's job. As is the job of Paulo to be the gameplay director, for Harada to be the gameplay director, for Itsuno to be the gameplay director for all these companies. You're contracted to test for balance and jobs, test for balance and glitches, and you're there to give feedback on balance. It's not your job to overthrow the gameplay designer and tell you, no, I don't like the camera system. This is what I want in my game. It's first of all, that's not your job.
That's
like
not what I
that,
said. That's not what
that's
I
what you
said.
implied. Second of all,
That is not what
uh,
I implied. That is not what I
uh,
implied.
second of all, quote unquote division of the community. I don't know what universe you're living in. Improperly done. What or universe are you living in? Go on Twitter and look for just 1 second how people discuss these games. They're uncivilized, uh, incredibly negative. I mean, it's to the point where I think if you're a young person, please don't spend a lot of time in there. I literally believe it
Sometimes
can
I don't
like
think you hear what I say.
well, you've said a lot. Now it's my turn. So on Twitter, please be careful, like how much time you spend on there, because it's literally unhealthy for
I'm
you.
not talking about
Uh,
Twitter.
it's the current state of the FGC is not in a state. You know what, guys? They're both sides. They're equally effective. The positive and the negative side. That's not how it works. People are incredibly negative. I mean, it's not even close, right? I mean, just go
I'm
on
not
Twitter,
talking
go on
people.
Reddit.
I'm talking about
Tom, I'll
MK.
let you. I'll let you talk through your nonsense.
Well,
Let
at
me
least
talk through
address the
my stuff.
point instead of a straw man argument.
Your entire arguments suck, and literally can be. And by the way, I'll spend like
Run
1/3 of
through
the
a
time talking.
pinpoint.
I'll make my point a lot
You're
faster
talking
than
about.
you.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
anyway, division of the community, nonsense. Most people are negative. What are we talking about? Go on Twitter, feedback. It's all negative. You Back in the day, you had to make an account to go on a website. You actually had to get approved. You had to
I
make a
don't know who's
thread, make it
talking about
somewhat
Twitter.
presentable. Tom, let me finish. You had to like make your thread somewhat presentable. Now you lose, go on Twitter, trash the game, say whatever you want. Even if you're high level player, you men are Ds, you 5 6 is scrubby, your knee and R's and ash, you're politicking about buffs and nerves. That's the real state of the community. What are we talking about here? This nonsense. You know what? There are a bunch of toxic negative, like toxic
What I
positive.
said was the people who have the most influence and followings and that have the ear of NRS. So first of all,
Like
clearly
main
as
man Sui, who's nonstop
first,
complaining about the
I'm not
balance.
talking about Tekken. In my video, Dave, you know what I said? The number one problem we have? Deflection. We can never talk about the problem with Mortal Kombat because all the people that want to defend the game, first thing they do when you say Mortal Kombat, they say, what about Street Fighter? What about Tekken? What about Knee? What about Arslan Ash? I'm not talking. That's for the Tekken community and Street Fighter communities to discuss their game, a dialogue between them and their developer. I'm talking about Mortal Kombat, not deflecting to let's talk about Tekken's issues. So
Most
I'm
of the
talking
feedback from Mortal Kombat, even through those content creators, has been overwhelmingly negative, not positive.
I'm not talking about those content creators in Tekken or Street
Okay,
Fighter.
Mr. Aquaman, you talk about him. We had him
I'm
on our
talking
podcast with
about
Franco.
a lot. Yes, a lot of these people will say now, in hindsight, uh, we knew the problems with the game year one. But during year one, they were pretending they didn't exist. Those calling attention to it, they called
What?
negative.
Mr. Aquaman said those issues existed. Like he literally went on a podcast
I'm
even a long
talking.
time ago and said like these issues are real and people have a
Well,
right to say
I know
this.
he went on your podcast, but I believe that was during year two of MK1. So, for one, I'm not even talking about Aquaman directly here. I'm talking there are many people that I have dubbed toxic positive content creators, and very much like in MK11, where through all 4 years we were getting messages from these people of have, be patient, stop being so entitled. This is the best NRS game of all time, most balanced. And then when MK11 was done, they were the first ones to come out and say, "Oh my God, I just couldn't play that game anymore." What are you talking about? For 4 years, you said it's the most fun you've ever had in your life. So it's very disingenuous. Much like a lot of these people during year one of this game were constantly talking about patch after patch, best MK game ever, best state it's ever been, game saved, game saved. And now, once we got on year two and the news broke that it's over, well, listen, I'll be the first to tell you year one was that way, but they weren't saying that in year one. In year one, they were saying the game is saved. Every patch was saving the game. Every cameo and character was saving the game. It wasn't until it's over that people finally say, yeah, maybe. I understand your point about Twitter, Dave, and I agree. However, I'm talking about the most influential people. You can clearly look at someone and see someone who's just hating the game and someone who actually has a deep understanding of what the problems are, and vice versa with someone who likes the game. The point is, the feedback system is not working. It's not working. Not working at all. Um,
Mike asked you who the shills are. You could name one person. You named True Underdog. Now
I
you're
could
talking to
name,
him. You
I
guys
could
are
name,
best friends.
I could name a lot of them.
Nonsense. You
I could
guys are
name a
not
lot of
best friends. You're talking on his podcast.
I could,
Mike's
I could
podcast.
name a lot of them, but the problem is again, the drama changes the subject. Again, a bigger problem is they can
You
call
are
out people
bringing up the drama. Like you are the guy. Like
because
if you're gonna say these people are too positive, they need to criticize. I
be-
will like
because
Michael Myers
because
asked
because
who
we
are
all
they?
know
Name them.
Mike. No, Mike knows who they are. Mike and I know. Everyone
Okay,
knows who they are.
it's a secret. Nobody's allowed to know.
But the problem is, again, when you criticize the game and the flaws of the game, you can be called out and it's no big deal. If I were to say any one of these people's names, it would cause a huge problem and drama. And Tom's being this and Tom's being that. It just highlights more of the issues overall. I do think the feedback process is broken. I think that the beta process isn't done properly either. Um, the NRS needs to be able to gather information, you know, in a much better way that they've been doing. Because clearly people keep saying they don't want these vortexes and mix and safe mix, but these games keep having them. So even the players today who are playing the game and competing, all I keep hearing is we don't want safe mix, we don't want safe vortex, we don't want unblockables and hard to blockables, we don't want safe armored launchers. But I keep seeing safe vortexes, safe mix, safe armored launchers, etc. So clearly nothing is getting through to NRS because it doesn't matter who you are, for some reason they're not seem to getting that memo.
Well, I want to be respectful of Tom's time. Rio, you've been quiet for a while. We apologize. I think we're gonna give you the last
Yeah,
word,
well,
and
there
we'll
were
go for
four
the rest.
things you guys went through that I wanted to talk
I know
on.
there's a lot. Yeah, I know
No,
there's a
go ahead,
lot.
go ahead,
And
please go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so regarding what Tom was saying with people being, positive or toxic, this and that, I think it depends on, I guess, who the players are, because there are some players when they're playing a game, they don't want to kind of blame the game or make it look bad. But in reality, all he has to do this, it's not about who's being toxic or positive. It's about when you want a change for a game, instead of making a video and being like, yo, this game is trash and I want to play it so bad, this and that, instead of saying that, it's better just to voice your opinion in a way that you're actually identifying the problem, explaining it in detail so that way everybody can understand instead of, less about flaming the game specifically, more about like addressing the problem and talking about it in a way where it doesn't feel like you're being hostile or people feel like they're being attacked for liking a certain game. Do you guys agree with that?
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of time they've mentioned Twitter, this and that. Most oftentimes on Twitter, when you read people giving feedback on a game, it's not people giving. Some people will do it, but most people will be like, "This game is trash. Never play this." A random garbage player did this. That's not. You see so much of that in Twitter, and it's hard to sift through all that because there's so much that. At Dave's point, it ends up becoming almost like a cesspool. Like, okay, you have Twitter where everybody can now post up a comment, this and that. All it takes is one top player either retweet it, reply to it. And you know what that does? That now causes a chain reaction. Now everybody is into whatever the topic is because it's on everybody's timeline. They're all posting, and then it turns into something massive where it's like this huge topic, like Dave was saying, where it's pretty much starts steamrolling out of control, and then people end up talking about things that aren't really the issue. Like for MK12. The online was the first thing that needed to be fixed. Second, and I don't know, you don't see anybody talk about this, but in my opinion, dude, the anti-airs, the movement, how the game feels, the strings, everything is slowing down. Yes, this game is more like MKX with better neutral. However, the game feels slower than MKX did. So in that part, it's less enjoyable, but it has, the better footsies. So the problem is, this is what I want to see from MK13. Please try to make the game fluid. There should be no reason why we press a button or do a string, someone happens to jump, and then we're stuck not doing anything because the game just has this clunky movement to it. There's some games out there that you play where you won't be able to jump at somebody because they have good anti-airs, and they'll make you stop in footsies to play footsies with them. The problem is in NRS games, when you're in some of these spots, like for example in Justice, you're playing against Aquaman, if you cannot jump, you're stuck there with the most enjoyable gameplay possible because all you're doing is slowly walking forwards and backwards or doing a long, terrible dash. That is not fun gameplay. So it's not about removing playstyles. You can keep characters with good zoning, like Dave said, or strong answers, isn't that? Just make the game feel fluid and fun when you're playing against those styles. We don't want to play a game where if there's zoning, your only option to approach zoning is to slowly take a step forward and duck, and then let's repeat 10 more times because the movement is so bad in the game. And it just overall makes the game feel bad. That the way to fix it is instead of addressing the game from the core and building it up to feel better, they have to be like, oh yeah, we can't have these kind of zoning characters because if you put that in this game, people are going to complain because you can't move and the game just can't handle it. That needs to be removed. Another thing is going back to the balance part. I never said that they need to remove certain playstyles or you can't have hard to blockables or you can't have this or that. You can have all that. The problem is, how many MK games do we need to watch? Whether it's Cabal doing an armor launcher in MK9, which I've never seen anybody be like, oh my god, did you see that? Cabal did an armor launcher. That was so hype. Everybody's cheering. No. Nobody did that during MK9 when Cabal did that because it was brain dead. In the same way, nobody in MKX got hype when Alien did a half screen 50-50 and got a full combo, because again, that's easy to do. And then with MK11, nobody got hype because Fujin decided to press 4-2 from half screen, and if it hits you, he gets a full combo. If not, well, he Skywalker's full screen and you can't do anything. What I'm saying is with these games, and they don't have to do anything about MK12 right now. I'd rather NRS focus on MK13. For the next game, please, when you're designing a good zoner, or a good setup character, or a good offensive character, or a good defensive character, whatever it is, just make the character require a lot of skill and effort or execution put into it for that character to play properly. I do not want to see characters where you just hit someone with a down one and then you do your devastating win condition, which is just do a 50-50 into a 40% combo into now you have to guess again and you lose. Or Zoner who just does one projectile over and over that's so hard to get around because the game has such bad movement. Or an offensive character who just does a half screen mid armor launcher that's in your face and then they just cram it down. We need to just make the game MK13 has to be more about skill, being more about expressing characters, having play styles like people want, but having the game be more about execution around everything. And so that way, when people play the game and they're watching the game, it's more expressive and people can look at it and be like, wow, that was actually a good match. These people put a lot of effort into their character. Him making that read there, him setting that up, that took skill. It wasn't just walk up and do it and that's it. What's your guys' opinion on that?
Well, to be fair, to be respectful of Tom's time, I have a lot to say, but I think as far as what we would like to see in the next MK
Okay,
game,
well, look, I don't want to hold Tom too back, so Tom can go now if he needs to. I appreciate so much for being on, Tom. But if you want, Dave, we can just continue for 10 more minutes just because I want to hear your opinion on what you
Yeah,
have to say.
ultimately, I do agree with you, Rio. By the way, um, I think it's not a matter of this or that, right? You can have all of that as long as, like you said, it's more of a skill-based system, et cetera. It doesn't have to be you either take this or that, right? So I agree with that 100%. I think sometimes people do look at it. And again, yeah, with Twitter, when you say something is trash, there's nothing for a developer to go on, right? Like there's no information there. Why? Okay, you don't enjoy it. Why don't you enjoy it? That's what I mean by, and if you want to go not just the top content creators, the most influential ones, even down to the majority, the people that are on social media. If you're going to criticize a game, if you actually want it to be better, a developer is not a mind reader. Saying something that's trash or you don't like it or it's not fun, they don't know why that is. And then you start complaining that they're not fixing it. Well, they don't know how to fix it because you're not giving them any information. So on that, I agree 100%. And I want to say thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course, of course. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, it was great to have
Um,
you, Tom.
yes,
All right,
and
guys.
I hope you come back on the next episode.
Absolutely, man. This was great. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you again for coming on, Tom.
Bye.
Yeah, I'll tell you my opinion, and I do want to wrap it up in the next 10 minutes. Uh, because you mentioned skill and how the audience reacts to it. Do you realize that's completely subjective, right? Evil
But
moment.
no,
What
it's
was?
not really subjective. Because think about it. Let me ask you, Dave. Third Strike. Who takes more skill to play, Chun Li or Yun? Come on.
Well, most people don't know. Evil Moment 37 was sold not by the people watching, like like retrospectively. It was sold by the audience who knew what the game was about. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what sold the moment. It's the audience
But
saying oohs and
Dave,
ahs,
yes,
but
but look, it's funny you mentioned that Evo moment. You want to know why? That moment would not have been as memorable and amazing if that was easy to do that anybody off the street can do it. Do you understand now? The reason
I
why that was hype and the whole crowd got excited is because Daigo pulled off something that was hard to do in the heat of the moment. Not anybody off the street could just do that. That actually requires a lot of practice and skill. That's my point. So you made my point for me. My point is MK13, I would love to see more of that, where the game from the ground up is built more around skill. All the strong power levels, all the character styles requires a lot of effort, execution, you putting in time. That's how a fighting game should be. It should not just be pick up play, 1, 2, 3, ABC, 50-50. No, that's not how games should be.
well, I didn't make the point for you because the point is the fact that as you expand the fighting game audience, you're gonna have a lot of people who never played the game. Most people who watch these games nowadays are not people who play the game. They're just casual. They're just part of the casual audience, right? They may follow Maximilian, et cetera, right? But at that moment, it just happened to be the case that most people at that event, right? Because it's Evo, it was a comparatively right now a very small event by people who understood what's going on, who understood that parry took skill. But nowadays, if you present that to like I don't know 10 million people, how many people actually know actually that takes skill? It's it's like a WWE moment, right? It's just like it was sold by the crowd at that time because they knew what was actually going on. They knew that performing that one move actually took a lot of skill. If you show that to like my brother, he'd be like, "Why are these people screaming? Like, what's the big deal?" That's the point I'm trying to make you understand. So skill is very relative in the sense that most people don't understand what even skill is in a fighting game.
Yes, but my
You see
point is
my
the crowd wasn't paid off to be like, yo, act like this, or hey, we're gonna have you commentate. We're gonna have you commentate our tournament. We're gonna pay you. Just be super exciting on the mic. That's not the thing. Is all those reactions were genuine. They were real from what they saw in the game. That's the point. And what you're saying is, you're saying, well, if you show a fighting game video to people that have no interest or know anything about fighting games, they won't. Dude, but that's the point. Fighting games should be a lot bigger than they are now. The way to do that is to make the games more involving, to make the games look a lot better when people are watching them. So that way, the community that's playing these games, they go to tournaments to support them, the crowd there, they can get excited when they're watching a good match. It should be more about that and less about having to roll your eyes because Tremor decided to hit you with a half screen safe armor launcher that launch you in the air. We want less of that. We want the games to be good and for the community to grow, not for it to get less over time. That's not how it should be.
Well, the game that I was watching today that's apparently a bad game was Tekken 8 on the East. I'm sorry, not East. The the World Championship, right? In I believe it's Saudi Arabia. The crowd was extremely hype, flashing their lights or whatever those night whatever that well things I call them. Sorry, I'm missing the word, but the crowd was incredibly into it. Was cheering. There was hype. It's the same thing with a Mortal Kombat tournament. Nobody disagreed with any of this. The reality that stuff is out there. It's just not very common. Just because again, that crowd who's reacting and who's watching, they all know what's going on. They knew that when somebody does a jet upper, I'm sorry, taunt jet upper, they know it requires a lot of skill. But again, if you just show that video to a random person, like, yeah, why are these idiots cheering? Like, why are these nerds so excited about this? That's because they don't play the game and they don't understand what's actually going on. So I'm not up. Why would I be against hyper fighting games? I'm just giving you the nuanced and the realistic argument that I feel like you're missing.
But I feel like we're arguing two different things. You're telling me, well, you need What you're saying is if you show a game to people that don't play fighting games, it's not hype. Well, yeah. If you show people videos about other amazing things that they're not into or care about, they're probably not going to be hype either. So what is your point, really?
Well, the point is, there are a lot of people who don't play fighting games. They don't know what even skill means.
Yes, but before we get to them, we must first make the people who play fighting games that the community is based on right now be hype over the game and enjoy it. We have to start somewhere, right? So why are we focusing on people that don't play the game, spectators that have no idea about Tekken or MK? We should be first making them good for all of us, the community from within, and then expanding. You don't start from the outside in. But first, you have to make sure the core of the game is amazing before you start telling everybody about it.
I would say most modern fighting games do require a lot of skill, and it's the individual doing the work. I have always felt this way, even in the old games. There's no such thing, for the most part, as scrubby. Look at this guy randomly frauding out Tokido or Sonic Fox. That's a complete nonsense
Dave, you're
talking point.
comparing players with the game mechanic skill. Again, even a game like MK Deception, as badly balanced as that was, or take any older game like Marvel's Capcom, think of the most unbalanced, broken games you can think of. There were consistent players in all of them that were better than everybody. You're comparing two different things. You keep, for some reason, talking about players winning than how the game actually is. Yes, MK Deception is a broken fighting, but guess what? There were players back then like Versa that were beating everybody in first attempts because they were just better even though the game's broken. Same thing with Marvel's Capcom. Same thing with Third Strike. Same thing with Melee. Same thing with any other game. So I don't know why you keep making this comparison. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the actual game and the skill. Not you keep talking about players. And if a game is broken, then why isn't anybody and their mom winning with Cyrax? Or that's not what I'm talking about. Those are two different
Well,
complete topics.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think in general, obviously, there's a difference in quality between something like Deception and, I don't know, Street Fighter 6 or even MK12. I think fighting games have gotten better, especially in those 4 or 5 things that you discussed that you would like to see for the MK Legacy collection. Um, I don't think these games are scrubby at all. If that's, and I'm not saying that what you're saying, but apparently that's the word on Twitter and all these other social media. I think fighting games, for the most part, they're in a pretty good place and they're doing well and they're actually doing better than ever, especially in terms of sales, especially in terms of like um, pop culture. They're doing very well. They're not like, as popular mainstream as they used to be in the 90s, like Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat, but I think they're doing pretty well. And I think fighting games have tried a plethora of various strategy to advance, to promote, to enhance the genre, but it's not easy competing, against a lot of things. And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, in life, like, stuff changes, stuff evolves, stuff moves on. Like kung fu movies were super hot. I'm old. In the 90s they were super popular. No, they're not, because that kind of genre eventually like evolved into the superhero movies, right? So stuff changes all the time. It's not the same. It's different. Resident Evil used to be very different back in the day. Now it's just, it's completely different. And the point is, not to like beat a dead horse and just like to keep repeating myself. Stuff changes, evolves, sometimes for the far worse and sometimes for the better and sometimes just for the neutral.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand, like, how does this help make MK13 a better game? I feel like you're just throwing out general statements that don't
Well,
really.
the general statement are true, because as I said, on if you're referring to like stuff like skill, gameplay elements, you might as well make this podcast about religion and politics, because you will get, depending who you ask,
What?
especially.
No, but people can. I don't know why it's so hard for you to understand what takes more skill and what doesn't. A lot of people, I'm sure, if they. You see it all the time. People talking about fighting game, whatever, and they're like, "Yeah, this character takes more skill. This character's too easy." This is like you can see it in any game. Like a lot of games usually have characters that are harder to play and then other characters that are easier to play.
Well, I would say Brian is pretty difficult to play, yet he's one of the most hated characters right now because he's top tier. So top tier equals bad, right? And
Right,
you
but
can deny
here's the worst thing. Look, I don't want to cut you off, but
yeah.
it's worse to have. Look, I understand. No matter a lot of times, even a top tier, no matter how much skill they take, like Yun in Third Strike or Fox from Melee, there's going to be
They're
someone
still
out there
hated.
complaining, saying, "Sorry, what was that?"
They're still hated. Like they're
Yeah, there's going to be people
still
complaining. But here's the thing, though. I'd rather have that. I'd rather have a top tier who people are saying, "Man, screw that character." That's hard to play, than have a character who's top tier that's easy to play any day of the week.
I I think you're 100% right. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that the environment in which fighting games are now a part of, everything gets hated upon. Why are, for example, in the tech community, why are Knee and Arjun Ash literally, you know, having a Twitter war about their characters? We know that Brian is more difficult to use than Anna. Why are we talking about this? Yet people still have like very passionate opinions about the characters as well as the players, right? It's not as you're thinking about us like you're thinking about a very like basic terms. This character skill good. This character no skill bad. That's not the way it works. Like it's a lot more complicated than that. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. Because people, any character that's top tier and that's ubiquitous in terms of his or her tournament um, viability or placement, they're gonna get hated upon, no matter how difficult they are to use. I would make the argument like Street Fighter 6 JP initially in season 1 was very difficult to use, but he was so strong, he was everywhere. People hated him, and people wanted him nerfed. Then when he got nerfed, we're like, bro, he's nowhere to be found. Where is this character? He needs buffs. Then they buffed him, and now he's in a good place. But that took like a year and a half on Capcom's, watch on Capcom's experimentation to make him just the way he should be. So he's not too common and requires skill, but at the same time, he's not too weak, but requires too much skill so people wouldn't pick him up. It's not an easy topic, man. It's not something that's black and white.
Dave, I don't mean to be rude here, but you're almost telling me like, hey man, the sky is blue, the grass is green. You're telling me the obvious. It's the you need to work. Look, in my opinion, I feel like you're just trying to shut the conversation down. And this shouldn't be about, hey man, there's always going to be top tiers. Just can't do anything about it. Move on. No, dude. If you do that, fighting games will never get better. For MK13, we should be the ones telling them how to improve the game, not being like, there's always going to be top tiers of people complaining. Just keep it how it is, man. Don't change anything. Don't put too much effort into it. People are always going to complain, man. Dave, what are you doing? We should be having an engaging conversation on how to improve the game, not being like, well, every game has top tiers. Everyone's going to complain. No, that's how is that good for the game?
I mean, you talk about universal statements. You've said absolutely nothing interesting for the past.
What I've been
3-4
saying
minutes.
is for MK13, we have to have less of characters being brain dead. In every NRS game you can think of, there's been characters NRS has designed that are creative, that are good, that had effort put into them. All NRS has to do is they don't even have to hire testers for the game, honestly. They could just go back, look at some of the previous games, and take characters from each game that required effort and be like, you know what? This was a good design. Let's take this back, switch it up a bit, do this and that. That's all they have to do. You don't have to bring back the most degenerate, brain dead, uncreative characters ever that they've done before. We don't need those characters. We need less of those. We want MK13 to be amazing, not with just a few characters, but with every character. That's what I'm saying.
Nobody disagreed with that. And I was one of the first people to point out when I was playing Injustice 2, I'm like, dude, that shot is a massive mistake. And I think, not by the way, I wasn't a messiah. I think other people saw it coming too. The issue is that you had two Gear Splitters, which you agreed was a well-designed character. Two Gear Splitters in a top
I don't.
elite.
When I say Gears of well-designed character, I don't mean in fighting game general ever created. I mean in Mortal Kombat 12
Yeah,
tournaments.
exactly.
I don't want to say this to be insulting, but being a good design character in MK12 is not saying a ton. Like you don't. It's not like
No,
you're getting
fair enough.
awarded like
But
award of the year
yeah,
here.
but I think he is. I mean, I would go even further. I think he's definitely one of the best designed characters in the most recent times. Definitely, probably better than anything MKX because it's actually a lot more interesting, right? And we go into the details, even though I think it's unnecessary at this point. The point is, we live in a different. I think you're approaching everything from like the old perspective, like, oh, like this guy, he has a lot of skill. He figures something out. He's gonna be only, the only one, you know, actually placing with this, and people are not gonna complain. That's not like how the modern FGC is, man.
No, I'm not talking about complaints or people or players that's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about the actual game being enjoyable, requiring skill, requiring effort. I want to be
I
able to
think
play an NRS
as
game and be able to go to training mode every day to work on something. It's annoying when you play an NRS game like MK12 when I played Havoc and Cyrax. After a couple days, I already got all his optimal B&Bs, all steps and everything, and that was it. I don't have to go training mode anymore. I got everything I needed because the game is very simple to learn and pick up, and you can learn all the combos in like less than a week. That's the issue. I want games to be like when you play them, there's a lot to unpack. There is so much to learn. Like when you play Melee, for example, you're going to be in training mode for years learning everything down and expanding your skill and doing this. I want NRS games to be like that. When I play a character in an NRS game, I don't want the character to be mastered in like a month or a few months or 1 year. I want it to take a long time, a long process. It's like a huge adventure you're going in on with the character. That's how fighting games should feel.
Well, if you're into archetypes and if you're into different gameplay styles, the reason I got top 8 with Freddy and at Evo 2012 is not because I spent, I spent a lot of time practicing the combos. It's literally I told Master D, my cousin, go full screen. I'll throw I'll throw a projectile and I want you to react different ways so I can see how I can react in return, right? It's not like practice, quote unquote, but it's just different, right? So I just cannot understand why you cannot, why you yourself cannot understand the fact that a lot of people have very, very different views of what you consider skill, how you even approach practice. By the way, just to be clear, I don't want stuff like that shot. I don't want stuff like that stroke. I don't want stuff like Dr. Fate. I want more interesting designs. I've said it for a very, very long time, and I keep saying I don't want pew pews dominate the game. I told you this many, many times. But with that said, I think you have a very narrow definition on a lot of these topics that we're discussing because you have to think outside the box. It doesn't mean that I think you're super educated. I think you're one of the best players I've ever played in my life. But please consider like other 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 perceptions, other that the fact that people have other concepts of these topics.
I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm not narrowing anything down. I already said this many times. You can have a lot of different archetypes. You just have to have skill behind it. It doesn't matter. Why is it whenever people think of like execution or skill, they only think of, the character has to be like, Brian Fury from Tekken. That's it. That's the only way to do an execution character. Only just frames, or you have to have a character like you said, Gears. Do this and you do setup. No, there's a million ways to design characters around skill and execution. Execution comes in all shapes and sizes. Execution doesn't just mean make everything a just frame. There's a lot of different forms. That's what I'm trying to tell you. When you're saying
I
it's narrow,
agree.
I don't think you're understanding.
Well, sometimes people have easy to use characters because that's how new players learn the game. You don't want a new player learning a game with Gears. You don't want a new player learning a game with Kazuya. You're gonna have an incredibly miserable time, right? It's
No,
gonna be
Dave, no, 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 no. You can make new players learn those characters. It's called create new modes for them. All you have to do is create a separate mode where when you play whatever character, you press one button and they do the input for you. You don't have to spend weeks learning how to do a perfect Electro Wing Office. You don't have to do that because these casual players are not in there to learn that. They're there just to play the game. That's why when you look at some games, like whether it's
you said
Injustice 2 or MK11, you can
you
have
said you
modes where you can play, have gear on, crazy moves, all that. You can do that. Just keep that out of the tournament game. You need, for a game to be successful, you don't cram the competitive casual everything in one mode together and force everybody to play the same thing. No, you create different modes so people can play the game how they want.
yes, and sometimes those
If I'm
modes
a
those
casual player that wants to play Third Strike for like a one weekend out of my friend's house, what the hell do I care about playing Urian and doing all these specific Aegis setups, learning everyone's different knockdown timing? Like, no, I just want to play the game and mash and have fun. So I'll play the mode that does that. This is what
hey,
I
so
mean.
then your friend is not gonna grow the scene, so maybe he will add to the sales, but what relevance does that have to what we're literally discussing? I thought the premise was to grow the scene, to make the games better,
Because
because
when you
sales
have different modes in the game that'll attract different people, they'll
no,
stick to a game. That's the point, Dave.
I support those modes, but I'm saying not all those
When you
modes
have a
necessarily.
fighting game and the only mode is ranked and nothing else, how many people do you think are going to end up playing that aside from the people that want to play the game seriously? That's the problem.
The rank mode ironically grows to see the most, right? Because those are the people you would
Yes,
expect
it
once
grows
they
the
get
competitive scene, but I'm saying when you want to get the numbers up, like you mentioned earlier, I don't care about
numbers.
sales, but if you want to get numbers up in sales so the a game gets more longer supported, like you said, more patches, more of that, you need to have different modes in the game for other people that are not there just to do frame data and play competitively. They just want to have fun with the game. So things like
Is it not?
story mode, things like crypt, things like ladder, custom modes, all that stuff. You can have that all in the game.
I don't see what those. I mean, I'm all for those modes, and I think they're unique. I don't see what those do for growing the scene in terms of its competitive nature. But uh, I think if this stuff were easy, and no, I don't think that if this stuff were easy, people would figure it out right now. If fighting games could sell 40 million and we could have, I don't know, for MK12 we could have 10,000 players. These people do this for a living, and they would have solved the equation if they could. They don't because it's not that easy. It involves it involves so many factors. I think it's honestly difficult for the human mind to understand, and that's what I've been saying because there's so many factors. A lot of them has to do just with perception, with um, preferences, with likes and dislikes, etc. You name them, right? It's right on the table. That's what I'm saying. Because I do think people, these people study this for a living. They want to make the most amount of money. And if they could solve this equation and make fighting games sell more than Call of Duty, they would. But it's not that easy. It's very,
But
very
there are
difficult.
some fighting games that sell like 40 million. I mean, look at Smash. What are they doing?
Well, yeah, because they
I'll tell
cater
you
to
what they're
small.
doing. They have a game where people play in tournaments or competitively, but look at what Smash has compared to current fighting games. A million other modes. You can play the game how you want. There's a story mode. There's custom mode.
Well,
There's always different wacky versus mode. There's tag modes. There's a million things you can do. The problem is if
the reason the
look, I
game
feel like we're
sells.
talking two different things. You're talking about sales, business wise. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about making the game good competitively only. The sales and stuff, again, I don't care if a game sells 50 million or 100 copies. If I like the game, I like the game. If I think it's worth playing, I'll play it. If not, doesn't matter if the game sold. If Fortnite sold a billion copies, that does not make me want to play Fortnite all of a sudden or like Fortnite. That's not how it works. But for you, understand, for you, sales and all that is important. But for me, I could care less. I just want MK13 as a game to be a very good game competitively and not just have a few interesting characters, have all the characters in the cast be interesting in their own way, not have a few characters that have to do execution or have depth to them. I want all the characters to have their own execution, their own depth. I want every character to feel good. I want the game to be fast and fluid. Not like that's all I'm saying. And if you do that, naturally, the competitive scene around the game will enjoy the game and they'll start growing it and the word of mouth will get around. Obviously, it won't be as much as, doing stuff casually, but maybe we'll start having, I don't know, 10,000 people at tournaments eventually instead of just usually 1,000 people at tournaments. That's what I'm saying.
So you don't care about sales, but you want the competitive scene to grow. That's an oxymoron on itself. That doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. And furthermore, um, a lot of the stuff that you talk about, like skill, is subjective. Some isn't. Like that shot spamming one move over and over again. Yeah, that's the easy example that a chimpanzee can point out. Other stuff isn't. As I've already told you, Geras is a well-designed character. I think one of the best NRS, one of the best modern NRS characters. A lot of people think he's scrubby. Not like the casual audience, but like the competitive players. I have King Jr., one of my closest friends. Man, I'm hoping that he doesn't get nerfed. I'm like, why? He's like interesting character. Dude, a lot of people are complaining, especially about Montaro, and then if that like, so do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's not as easy and as straightforward as you make it
I
out to
never
be.
said it was easy or straightforward. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, hey guys, it's so easy to make a fighting game, just do this and that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they have to just start somewhere and start expanding on that instead of every game ignoring it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'll give you the last word in the next podcast. I would like to have Tom and God willing, Crimson to have them on and talk about what gameplay elements you would like to have. I think that would make an interesting podcast. But I'll give you the last word because I think you deserve it for bringing us back together and for having the patience to deal with us to deal with us again. But go ahead, please.
No, it was an enjoyable podcast. I had just some interesting topics on this episode, and it was enjoyable to have you and Tom both on. Hopefully, Crimson will be back on the next episode, so that way it'll be like a reunion from what 6 years now since our last episode. All four of us
Yeah,
were
it's
together.
been a while. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yes. Any closing words?
Well, I consider you one of my closest FGC friends. So thank you so much for reuniting us, for bringing Tom back, for motivating me to have this conversation. In a weird way, thank you to Mike Hollow. I know we disagree. My friend, thank you so much for having me. I'm an old guy by just speaking my mind about this passionate genre that I'm old, but I'm still passionate. Um, Rio, are you okay with having another podcast? If not this month, obviously maybe next month with Tom, you and me, and hopefully Crimson. So kind of people know what to expect.
Sure, we can do a podcast next week if you want, or every week. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I started us off. You close us out, please.
Yep, everybody, thank you so much for watching this episode. Hope you guys enjoy it. And please let me know what you guys feel about the topics. I want to see you guys have to say some of this. Do you guys agree? Like, should characters require more depth? Should they be harder to play? Do sales matter? Do they not? What do you personally want to see from MK13? Do you want to see it sell well? Do you want to see, I don't know, NRS focus more on the competitive scene? Whatever it is, please post and we'll read your comments. And again, thank you so much for listening to episode 35 of the podcast. And thank you again to Dave and Tom for coming on. See you guys in the next episode.